Our story begins with a simple game of Jenga, where it's said that truth or dare is ultimately extremely dangerous. One of the blocks is finally pulled and the whole tower wobbles, and so it ends up collapsing, sealing the young girl's fate. Now Shen Xiao has to choose what kind of answer she will have to give. The girl shakes her head, saying it's too hard for something so silly. And so we're told that our protagonist has always liked this girl from afar since middle school. They have been around each other for a long time. However, he ended up realizing she might be more special than he had thought. After all, a gang from a neighboring school, along with one from their own, is now trying to convince the girl to be with them. And that led to an endless fight where all the gang members got involved. It seemed like a war that might never end in the end. The nerd promptly asks who the guy she likes is, to which she must be honest. The girl says it's a very embarrassing question to ask. And so our protagonist makes an oath gesture, saying that it's the best kind of question in a situation like this. Soon the girl questions whether she really should bother answering, to which it's said that this is justice as everyone else has already done it. She then begins to look a bit thoughtful as she considers the best way to say it, but soon everyone starts laughing while they wait for the answer. And as soon as our protagonist's name is mentioned, we can see that everyone is surprised. However, the shock falls on our protagonist, who becomes extremely confused. This is Wang Xiaoxiu, an ordinary high school student. Everyone thinks it must be a joke because there's no reason for it to be true. And even our boy knows it well. After all, it really scared him half to death. However, if she was telling the truth, then that makes it even more pathetic. As silence fills the room, the girl says she wasn't lying. After all, she's had these feelings since school. In the end, everything was always directed toward our protagonist. Everyone shows extreme surprise, including the big-headed boy. And with wide eyes, he realizes the situation is actually serious after all, because he has always liked her, and now he can feel that she might feel the same. He then wonders if he should confess his feelings. But the question arises, what will the gang leaders do when they find out? He didn't know whether to feel excited or nervous, and that turned out to be alarming. And so we can see the agony present on his face. After all, he's being held with his face completely beaten. A man says he will kill him for daring to like his boss's girl. Then he declares that Xiaoxiu is a dead man and asks what's in his brain to think he could reach her. It's said that the man who's smoking right now is the leader of Chengbai High. And so we see that he's calling the girl, who asks why he has the protagonist's phone. To which he says she should stay on the line for a moment because he's going to show her something interesting. As soon as she sees our protagonist, she becomes immediately worried and tells them to let him go. But this psychopath says he's having an open conversation with her friend, then asks who truly deserves Shen You's heart in the end. Our protagonist continues breathing heavily while watching him. In the end, the man just wants to break the protagonist's pride and says he'll give him a chance if he gives the answer he's expecting. And so our boy begins to breathe even more heavily. Then he starts closing his eyes, saying the name of the gang leader. Everyone starts laughing because that was the confirmation they were looking for. However, our protagonist finishes the sentence by saying that he is not worthy of sweet Shen You's heart, causing everyone to become both irritated and shocked at the same time. He says that trash will always remain trash, and everyone there has that kind of blood in their veins. Soon our boy headbutts the man who was holding him. His body begins to fall backward, as he thinks he just wanted to protect her from everything. Everyone is scared and wonders if he's capable of swimming in that cold water. Our protagonist begins sinking into the lake and thinks it's very cold. In the end, the cut on his eye is making everything worse, and so he ends up closing them with some difficulty. He never learned to swim and is afraid of drowning, but at that moment, only one thing exists there, because the girl he liked so much only had eyes for him in the end. He begins to release his oxygen at that moment, apparently to say goodbye, because he at least got to experience true love, which was what he was missing. All of that ends up changing his entire life, making it so there are no regrets. But something suddenly catches his attention. It's a shining point of the strange light, and as he gets closer, he sees it's a cube that seems to be stuck in the mud. Outside, everyone wonders why they can't see him and question if Xiaoxiu is a dead man. The boy starts to swim, saying he doesn't have enough oxygen in his lungs. But this mysterious cube is attracting him somehow. It's like a voice echoing in his mind, which makes everything feel lighter. As soon as he holds it, he can sense its composition. Then, floating in his hand, he wonders how that ended up there. He suddenly opens his eyes wide as he notices something. It's an involuntary movement from the object in his hand. In a single moment, the item ends up merging with his chest and sinking into it. The boy wonders how it disappeared like that since it makes no sense to him. However, the cube ended up entering his heart, making him feel something burning inside. With his hand on his chest, he questions what's happening. As with that thing inside his body, it feels like he's going to fall apart at any moment. Before he knows it, he can feel an energy covering him at that moment as if it's transporting him. His figure starts to flatten like a real drawing while being pulled into something. And so in midair, he wonders what's going on since he had been sinking just a moment ago. Soon his body is moved once again and he ends up seeing several trees in the area. Next, we can see his body still moving amid screams. And while despair takes over his form, his eyes start spinning completely frenzied. We then see a completely dark classroom. Then a small point appears, creating a strange sound. It's our protagonist who has just been teleported there all at once. He then falls onto a desk, feeling immense pain in his back. Breathing heavily, he remains stunned by what's happening, as it doesn't seem to make any sense. And as soon as he sits up and looks around, everything gets even more confusing. After all, a classroom is exactly the opposite of what he expected from hell. He then questions what he's doing there. In the end, he was underwater just a minute ago, and so he touches his chest, feeling his heartbeat. Someone ends up shouting, questioning what that sound could be. And we then see someone walking with a flashlight in hand, shouting for whoever is there. That's when they notice our protagonist inside the classroom and are startled for a moment. At the same time, the other people on the bridge question what they should do, to which it said they need to go down as quickly as possible to find him in the end. The man with the mohawk questions why they have to do that, since it's very cold at the moment. And it said that the original plan was just to scare him, but if he ends up drowning, it'll get them incriminated for murder. So they shout to go find him as fast as possible. The teacher asks why our protagonist got locked inside the classroom while sleeping, and in the end says Shiaxu is extremely careless and asks why his clothes are so wet. The young man quickly replies, saying he got wet trying to drink water and runs off. The bald man promptly questions how that's possible while our boy just keeps running away as fast as he can. Back on the bridge, it said they already searched everywhere and didn't find the body. Using a stick, it said that he's not there either. Their legs are shaking in the cold water they're diving into at that moment. They've already been searching for a total of half an hour and wonder how long our boy can hold his breath. At the same time, we see an apartment where our protagonist is lying in bed after changing clothes. His hand is on his chest as he processes everything lightly. After all, what happened was simply unexpected, because this is an abnormality that had only ever been seen in movies until now. He clearly remembers that something ended up entering his body, like a strange magical object that probably caused his involuntary teleportation. When he closes his eyes, he hears a voice saying that he is correct, and so he opens his eyes wide, questioning who is there inside his room. He is teleported to a strange room amidst screams, where it is said that the one speaking is no one else but himself. Soon it introduces itself as a universal entity with its own name, called Horadric, and our protagonist starts breathing extremely heavily. The boy finally lets out a desperate scream at that exact moment, and looking upward, he wonders what this could be, as the situation just became even more alarming. His thoughts begin to spiral, and he questions where he is and whether he's been kidnapped by aliens. However, the entity replies that he is inside the dimensional cube, and in the end, the outside looks exactly like a simple 3x3 magic cube. In the end, the space he's in is everything that exists within that pocket dimension. The boy clenches his teeth for a moment, still afraid, and with a fearful step, he moves toward the wall. He then extends his hand to touch it all at once. He remains silent while watching small folds form on the surface. The boy says he wants to leave as quickly as possible, to which it is said that, as his master, he can leave whenever he wants. But first, he must learn to control his teleportation ability. The boy asks what his companion means by that, and it's said that, to be frank, he can move within a 15-meter radius from the cube in any direction or dimension. However, due to limited power, he can only do this twice per minute. So if the jump is made in the wrong direction, he'll end up dying without a chance, especially if he falls from somewhere too high. The protagonist says that Horadric is trying to kill him, since an invincible entity should at least be able to handle that. To which it is said that he is not what the protagonist claims, and it's replied that in school he learned not to trust every kind of lie that's told. He then asks how to properly use his power, to which it's answered that he must have already noticed that he currently has a sixth sense. His ability is to see through microwave radiation. If he tries, he'll be able to see the objects surrounding the cube, as if it were an extra organ that goes beyond his own eyes. It can also be called nuclear, if he prefers. In theory, he is capable of seeing everything within a 15-meter radius. The boy's heart races as surprise covers his face due to such clairvoyance. Looking at his palm, he realizes he can even see what it's made of. He cannot believe what he is seeing, as it seems completely surreal. And when he looks forward, his vision becomes increasingly projected, thus allowing him to clearly see the impossible. Now not even the walls can hold back his mind, which pierces through everything at once. In the end, the boy doesn't believe it, as it feels like a video game cheat. And with shining eyes, he admits it's infinitely better than that, because everything there seems as clear as day to him. The water droplets and even the buttons on the couch are visible. He can even see into the next room, where he sees his father and mother already asleep. His neighbor is currently playing some game, staring at the computer. However, outside, the most common sight is a small cat that's sitting there. But it seems to have felt something watching it, and so it stared back at him in that moment. It said that he adapted well to the radiation and now has the chance to choose the place he wants to be taken to. The boy is observing an image while thinking about where he should go, and so he is instantly teleported to that location. In the end, it worked just as it should, which is a big surprise. However, looking around, he realizes it's not his house as he had planned, and as he turns toward a door, he thinks he was just observing a living room under the stairs. Then he sees someone in the bathroom with a feminine silhouette. His face instantly turns red as he remembers. After all, this is Clark's sister, his next-door neighbor. He becomes desperate because he has to get out of there immediately. The woman promptly asks her sister to bring a towel, to which she replies by asking what she's going to do. Our boy looks to the side and realizes the item is on the sofa nearby. The The woman keeps calling for her sister while continuing her bath. Our protagonist panics when he hears footsteps approaching. Soon we see that the person is finally getting closer to the location at that exact moment. Xiaoxiu becomes extremely tense, begging to be sent back, to which he's told he still needs 35 more seconds. Frightened, the boy wonders if the cube is playing a joke on him at that exact moment. After a few seconds, we see the legs finally approaching as the girl looks for the towels. She finds them on the sofa while our protagonist is hiding behind it, begging not to be found. After all, he could lose his reputation and even be arrested in the process. However, the cube informs him he still has 10 seconds left. And so the boy already imagines his photo on every news site as a house thief who broke into his neighbor's home. Suddenly, the sofa trembles slightly due to the movements of our protagonist, and that leaves him completely tense. The girl notices it at that moment and turns her attention toward it. Then she turns around to face whatever was there, completely confused. She scratches her head, seeing nothing there as she had thought before. Inside the room, our protagonist says he managed to do it at the last minute and was extremely scared. The boy looks at his hand as he's congratulated by Horadric. That was a true teleportation. From now on, the boy will be able to use real teleportation in 2 different situations, both inside and outside of the physical body that forms the cube. Our protagonist finally realizes that he has gained superpowers in the end. He had lived just as a 17-year-old boy all this time, and believed his knowledge about the world he lived in was vast. However, now he can't understand most of the things happening at the moment. All of this comes from the simple fact that he obtained the impossible for his mind, which are superpowers that can be used at his will. In the end, it's impossible to describe what he feels, since these things seem to truly exist after all. And the rest of the universe now becomes increasingly strange to him. Looking at his hand, he begins to think about the possibilities. He then considers that he could become a righteous hero or even protect Earth from threats in the end. Or he could even end up becoming the king of the entire world he lives in. However, he decides to stop imagining things since the world seems to be collapsing around him. The boy places his hand on his chest, calling for the cube, and says its name. He asks where it came from, to which it replies that it has no information about that in its database, which doesn't surprise the boy since he expected that answer. So he decides to ask what the main objective of his companion is, which is said to be the same as his, because it wants to make him king of the world. Our protagonist is confused as he doesn't understand how he could possibly have such a desire in the end. When the entity met Xiaoxiu, he was strongly wishing to become someone more powerful in the end. And the image of all those who were causing trouble for the boy suddenly appears in his mind. Silence quickly fills his mind as the memories pass. He then begins to stand and asks how powerful he is right now. A thorough analysis of the boy's entire body begins immediately. His physical strength is described as below level 1, and his agility is at least 0.7, which surprises him. Even his stealth is at a very low value, which makes him question what that means, since he's sure his academic results are higher. But the cube responds that this comes from the Vitruvius model based on Leonardo da Vinci, and what it's trying to say is that it checked everything and only the boy's intelligence is above average. As a conclusion, it's important to say that his ratings are not the worst in the end. The protagonist quickly becomes irritated, saying that it should respect a man's heart and above all, understand that courage is fundamental. However, he quickly stops his companion from continuing to offend him so harshly. Then it's said that to become the king of the world, he must first start collecting stones. The boy is surprised by this and asks if it can be just any kind, to which it is said that it doesn't matter. After all, the world houses different types of rocks that may contain a certain amount of power, from hardness, brightness, power, or even a mystery embedded within them. Horadric's greatest strength is precisely the ability for its owner to gain power through stones. After hearing this, silence fills the space, and the protagonist finally says that this is actually useful and asks if they can test it now, since he has a jade stone in the living room, to which it is replied that no usable quality was detected in it. Our boy asks that his father was fooled because of that, to which it's said that it depends on the human market. Right after, he remembers that his mother has a diamond ring that cost a fortune and asks how valuable that is, to which is answered that no energy from precious stones was detected in his house, which surprises him. In the end, it's said that the size of the gem doesn't matter because its value doesn't change regardless of anything like that. It could be just artificial, and this makes our boy a bit disappointed. After all, his poor mother even has trouble wearing it because it's so valuable to her. Then the cube says in the protagonist's mind that it has found something extremely valuable in the garden. The boy hears this and asks what it could be, to which it's answered that it's a rare ore that is emitting a small amount of energy and should be more valuable than the diamonds and gems in the area. Excited, he asks if that's not a mistake or something like that. And it's said that Horadric possesses the best cosmic sense and perception radius on the entire planet, so it would be impossible to be wrong. Xiaoxiu immediately gets excited and says he's going to dig. He gets up and puts on his coat right away, then grabs a small gardening tool to begin his search, and then leaves his room, gently closing the door so as not to wake his parents. He hasn't been this impulsive since he was a child, and that's something extremely beneficial for his mood. Quickly, he arrives at the location where the cube says it is. However, it's exactly where the elderly come to do their exercises, and he wonders if the cube is tricking him. to which it said that he might be used to relying on radiation vision to make his own observation. Then his eyes begin to glow in a shade of black and gray at the same time, and so he can clearly see that there is something glowing in the shape of a stone beneath the soil. Either way, he gets ready to uncover this undiscovered gem. But suddenly, a woman arrives and asks what he's doing digging there. Horadric states that a hostile 40-year-old woman with low combat capacity has just arrived to be his enemy. However, our protagonist says he's just cleaning up animal waste, which calms the lady down and makes her leave. The cube is surprised by this and says he could have eliminated her easily, and now she's escaping, to which Shiaxu tells his companion to be quiet. The woman walking away says the boy is a good kid for working so late for the sake of the elderly. After half an hour, the boy manages to retrieve his objective and says he's exhausted. However, when looking at this gem, it seems rather ugly, to which it said that it's a primitive. Its properties are actually high, and he believes that if he didn't know its potential, he probably would have kicked it aside on the street. He is then teleported inside his space, and there he must place it in the devouring center that naturally appears on the wall. Shiaxu asks if that's the huge circle in front of him, to which it said yes. Then he brings his hand closer and asks what happens next. And then we can clearly see that it's sinking into the place as if it were liquid. But within seconds, the object is completely devoured by the wall, which sucks it in entirely. Thus, the protagonist is surprised that it dissolved completely at such an unbelievable speed. He quickly sighs, looking around in some confusion, and then stares at his hand, saying that he's certain of something. However, when he says he doesn't feel any difference, he suddenly stops. His body begins to tremble as involuntary shocks are felt. His eyes begin to expand as something feels strange. He can feel a current and flow within himself. It's the power running through his veins faster than ever. It even feels like an extreme avalanche breaking through any stone in its path. In the end, it's completely legendary, and the low-quality primitive gem increased his strength by 2 and his stamina by 1 point. The boy wonders how that could be possible, since he's sure he could defeat an entire army at this moment, and it's said that his power has risen to 24. And he now understands that his potential has increased by 600%, which means it's natural to feel a difference. He then whispers that it makes sense after all. Horadric modifies the user's body and system, and the modifications are made in his DNA to ensure greater strength. The bone density and muscle strength, everything is increased by the cube's capability. However, the protagonist's combat skills haven't improved at all. So the boy asks what that means, as it sounds like some kind of video game. To which it is replied that combat ability is how humans adapt to certain scenarios while awakening all of their innate power. Kafeaxu understands this and says he will test outside. His body is finally taken to the place he was before, and then he faces a tree, saying they will test his strength from that point on. A fist is prepared as he declares his punch must be much stronger than before. Then he throws a punch straight at the material. A cracking sound is heard, and the tree reverberates for a long moment. The leaves begin to shake, revealing that something seems to be on its surface. And on the other hand, our boy feels extreme pain that silences him. He kneels down saying his hand hurts, to which is replied that his body's resistance remains the same, unlike his strength. Then from above the tree, a large amount of water falls on him, and he admits he forgot that it rained the night before. Next, our protagonist walks away, clearly cold in the end. A light breeze can be seen sweeping through the place. And then we observe the tree, which has something unusual. A mark left there at that moment, marking the beginning of something. Because the punch from our protagonist opened a crater in the thick trunk of the object. And that would be a scar left forever, serving as a reminder of the boy's newly acquired strength. Then we see the next day finally arriving. The school seems lively as always, and our boy appears to have a confident look. After all, he's very excited because he slept all night and his energy is fully restored. The girl Xiao likes greets him good morning. The boy politely greets Shen Yao in return. She says that last night she caused trouble and is sorry for that. However, the boy says it's okay and that he should even thank her. This surprises Shen in the end, and she becomes more embarrassed. Shiaxu says he's grateful for the way she spoke before, and Horadric can sense a strange fluctuation coming from his heart. Suddenly, some people enter the classroom, ordering everyone to get out of the way immediately. A recognizable figure is seen among them as they cause a commotion. Our protagonist notices this and observes everything cautiously. The one with long hair looks extremely irritated as he stares at our protagonist. The boy realizes this and remains a bit confused. The people in the room wonder who these guys are. Then a girl states that it's the leader of the Beijing gang from school, and it seems like he had a bad day. The one wearing a jacket calls out to Xiao, saying he didn't expect to find him alive and safe there. Our boy recognizes him and calls him by the name Sun Jun. The girl watches from the side, seeming a bit uneasy, and then she grabs the sleeve of our protagonist's shirt. The one in front notices this and seems to become even more irritated. He then smiles, saying he didn't die the night before. However, his life might be in danger at that moment. Our boy, however, remains brave and stares back with a deadly gaze. But before doing anything, Shen Yao steps in front, saying she won't let them hurt the boy. Everyone begins to stir, questioning what's going on with the girl. And the leader takes advantage of it, asking if everyone is seeing that this trash needs a girl's protection. They start laughing, saying that a man shouldn't hide behind a lady like he's doing. Our young man remains silent while the Q detects that the power level of those people is around 5. Xiaoxiu is surprised because he thought it would be higher, and he's told that his own is between 19 and 22. Sun Jun promptly says that this guy is useless, and that he won't let her suffer because of it, so he decides to prove it. He then calls out to Xiaoxiu, telling him to come closer. Everyone falls silent, watching the situation. Then the long-haired one says they're going to play a little game from this point on. He must remain on his knees and admit that what he did was wrong. And if he does, he promises to let him go without any injuries. But if his conditions aren't met, he'll make sure to punch the protagonist's face so badly that not even his mother will recognize him. Everyone realizes this and says that it's being very offensive to our dear Xiao. However, those who are with the long-haired one keep shouting for him to kneel immediately. Everyone in the room knows that if Xiao does that, he won't be able to live a good life in high school. Quickly, the girl tries to step in front, saying the guy is going too far over a childish argument, but a hand suddenly rests on her shoulder. Our protagonist thanks Shen Yao with a smile that calms her down, and he says to leave the rest to him because he already has a plan. He then says that cowards who group up to prove themselves end up being the biggest clowns in the end. Everyone who hears this is shocked by the protagonist's brave words, and a commotion starts again because they didn't know Xiao was so bold after all. Our protagonist says he has something to say because self-confidence is something to keep for life. So he decides to say not to worry about Shen Yao anymore since no one likes the presence of someone like Sun Jun anyway, which should have been obvious. And from now on, our protagonist will take care of her so that trash like him doesn't get close. The long-haired one is completely shocked and furious at what's being said. Then the whole room starts whispering because they realize the protagonist is really someone with high confidence. The girls seem excited because it looks like a confession of his feelings for Shen Yao. Irritated, the long-haired guy promptly curses our protagonist as the veins in his head bulge out. He then prepares a punch, saying he won't let him keep acting arrogantly in his presence. Everyone is startled because senseless violence is about to begin. The girl next to our protagonist tries to call his name, telling him to dodge. However, the boy seems extremely calm and quiet in the end. Seeing that, the protagonist stays quiet because the punch is coming at a very slow speed. It's as if he can see every atom approaching as clearly as day, and so he catches it with extreme mastery. His gaze remains serious as he stares at his opponent. We can see the fist trembling within the protagonist's hand. The long-haired guy becomes scared at that moment by the strength being applied. He can feel that he's about to be broken by the protagonist's grip. Everyone watching is shocked as the gang leader is now trembling. Those who came with him wonder why the boss isn't doing anything, since they can't understand it from their point of view. And the other students seem confused too, since he clearly could throw another punch. However, Sun Jun knows that the pain is unbearable and senses that his arm will be ripped off if he tries another attack. Suddenly, someone arrives asking what's going on in the classroom at this hour, and everyone realizes that the teacher has finally arrived to start class. Our protagonist also notices this and loosens his grip a little. Taking advantage of this, Sun Jun pulls away and tells them to leave as quickly as possible. The teacher says that everyone who isn't part of his class must leave immediately because they're rotten apples in the harvest, and the leader promptly says to leave, surprising his followers. However, it's said that this isn't over because before long the protagonist will be completely crushed. But he, still courageous, has to wait a moment. After all, there's nothing to wait for because he needs to teach a lesson to these foolish kids who think they can do whatever they want. The henchmen are surprised by that and question what he means. And a commotion starts again among the students, saying that it's incredible, while the teacher looks confused about what's going on. With a psychotic smile, the long-haired guy says that after school, they'll settle this on the basketball court. However, our protagonist simply tells him to leave immediately because he's embarrassing himself. Realizing this intimidation, the man gets even more irritated and starts grinding his teeth. And trembling with rage, he tells his henchmen to get ready to leave right away. Once again, a commotion starts because Wang Xiaoxiu was very lucky the teacher arrived, or his head would have been ripped off by the bullies if that hadn't happened. However, the gang leader knows well that the one who was saved was him, since he was about to kneel and beg to have his wrist released. So he ends up saying that he can't give a proper beating in front of the teacher, but he'll make sure Xiao regrets crossing his path. All the henchmen get excited and say their boss is extremely cruel, laughing. However, he still looks angry and is trembling slightly. After all, his hand was injured just by the grip strength of our protagonist. Sometime later, we see that the afternoon is approaching at the school. The students are paying attention in class while the teacher explains. Shen Yao, on the other hand, is focusing her gaze in one direction. That direction being our protagonist, who tries to look back at her in a goofy way. The students start chatting, saying that the atmosphere is becoming more and more romantic, and one of them ends up saying out loud that no one cares about that. The teacher quickly throws a piece of chalk at her head, saying she should answer the question. We then see a darker area of the school, where the sports equipment is stored. Someone smoking there wonders to himself if the protagonist really thinks he's a good fighter just because he has strong grip strength. However, he didn't earn the title of leader due to brute strength. It was actually because of his intelligence, and now he's ready to make Xiaoxiu regret messing with an upperclassman. After a few hours, the sun is finally setting that afternoon. All the students are already leaving school after a long day of classes. However, in the stadium near the court, we can see a small commotion. Our protagonist finally arrives at the location, and then he remembers Shen Yao saying she didn't want to cause him trouble and that she felt very stupid in the end. But our protagonist says she doesn't need to put herself down. After all, there are still things he needs to handle. Still, she remains worried, since he should have asked the teachers for help, as they are a very powerful group. However, the boy says there's no need to worry, he's not the same as yesterday and can handle them alone now. In the end, Sun Jun is trash and just needs to be scared a bit so he can have peace at school, and that's why this needs to be resolved quickly. That gang probably has about 5 or 6 people, so it shouldn't be a problem to take them down. Suddenly, the long-haired one is surprised that Xiaoxiu actually dared to come there. And laughing, he says that those who act like heroes are always the first to die. Soon we see that several people begin gathering around our protagonist. He knows well that there are more than 5 or 6 people there, and the queue counts a total of 16. Then the long-haired guy says he didn't expect him to really dare challenge him. However, something doesn't feel right, and he orders the doors closed, and it's revealed that there are 27 people in total there. The men start laughing, saying they reserved the place just to beat up the boy, which is unexpected for him. All of them, laughing loudly, begin approaching with a clear intent for violence. Our protagonist states that the disadvantage is extreme and he needs to think of something fast to avoid getting into serious trouble. He then shouts at the leader, questioning why there are so many people there, since a coward who doesn't fight his own battles ends up being the worst kind of leader. However, the long-haired one says that he's an idiot to think they're still young enough to believe in some kind of honor like that. But a fat guy steps forward, saying to the boss that he'll take care of this fight, and this is Guang Tuking, also known as number 1 beneath the boss. Sun Jun is surprised that someone is dumb enough to face him in a one-on-one fight, while this idiot claims he's going to torture him slowly. Our protagonist takes off his backpack with a slight smile, as he's finally found someone to properly beat up. The older guy then asks if he'll be allowed to play with a kid in this little battle they're about to have, and the protagonist says it's not a problem. However, he should be challenging the boss instead, and asks what he'll get if he wins. He's told that he's welcome to go after the boss if he manages to win, which only irritates the long-haired guy even more. However, it's claimed that the protagonist doesn't stand a chance, and so the man charges at him all at once. Suddenly, we hear a punch fired like a gunshot. Everyone is shocked to see the giant guy simply thrown into a basketball ball rack. There's ketchup coming out of his nose as he crashes to the floor. Our protagonist stands there as everyone remains stunned in the end. The boy then thinks that he's actually stronger than he imagined, though his hand still hurts. Sun Jun notices this and thinks that this kid is actually stronger than he expected. Our protagonist promptly asks if the leader is ready, since he seems like the cowardly type, and questions whether he dares to fight him. Here and now, leadership is being put at risk, and he thinks he can't let his pride fall in front of Xiaoxiu. He then starts laughing, saying the kid's not bad and might even try to step on his face. But it's foolish to think his brothers would just stand by and do nothing. Even if he were the strongest person on Earth, it wouldn't matter, because Sun Jun has fought against much stronger people. However, even against such difficult opponents, the North City gang has always stood together, and the reason is simple. The pride that runs through their veins won't let them be crushed and gives them no desire to lose. With that, all the henchmen begin to get hyped, believing that's the truth, since they can't let one arrogant person stay there and stain the pride of North City. Xiaoxiu realizes that Sun Jun is some kind of speaker, as he managed to raise everyone's battle spirit in an incredibly impressive way. Then he points forward, shouting for them to go kill the boy, and all of them charge at once with smiles. The long-haired one says that taking control of the scene is exactly what makes a leader so powerful, and in the end, the protagonist is just a beginner. Our boy wonders if he'll really be able to handle all of them at once with ease. The men run toward our protagonist, saying they're going to destroy him. He accepts it all, saying he has no choice but to fight. His fist promptly clenches with extreme force due to the situation. Then one of the men charges, throwing a punch at our boy all at once. In the end, if he's able to see it, he shouldn't have trouble dodging. However, his defense is still very low, so he won't be able to take many hits. Because of that, his main objective is to defeat them as quickly as possible. The cube also tries to help, warning him to watch out for an attack from behind, and he gets kicked in the back. The long-haired one gives a wicked smile, saying he has the numbers advantage and it won't be hard to win. This kid won't be able to fight them all. In the end, it really hurts for our protagonist, who had never been hit before. But then he grabs his opponent's leg, asking how he dares to do that. The man tries to break free, asking what he's going to do about it. Our protagonist immediately throws his leg back, saying it's nothing special, because he's just going to retaliate with a direct kick to the student who dared hurt him. Everyone suddenly panics as they see a shadow looming over them, because the one who was hit is now flying into the sky. Sun Jun wonders if this is really the strength of a high school student, and he yells for everyone not to stop and to fight together, because they'll win. All of them charge at the protagonist at once, shouting that it's for the pride of North City. In the end, he can feel the sharp pain from the blow to his face, and he counters with a direct hit to the face of the one who struck him, asking how it feels to suffer the same. In the end, their thinking is that they are strong only because they are greater in number. However, the pride of these men is completely distorted after all. After all, the violence they cause is the only fuel for their happiness. And because of that, they will get a taste of what they do, so they can feel on their skin how good it is to feel the suffering they have been causing. In his mind, the boy ends up thinking he didn't know how exhausting this whole fight would be. Thus, the cube ends up telling him to be immediately careful. He suddenly receives a kick in his stomach from a guy with a mohawk who says he managed to catch him. Our protagonist can feel several impacts on his body, which causes him immense pain. The long-haired guy shouts that things are going very well and for them to keep going after all, they are about to win. Hyakushu, on the other hand, becomes completely enraged, the veins on his face bulging. He grabs his enemy's leg with extreme force. Then he lets out a scream while swinging him at that moment, thus using him as a weapon to strike everyone while saying that bullying is the only thing that gives them the distorted pride they possess, and that's why he's going to give them the same medicine they've been giving to weaker people. He then throws the unconscious man's body into the air. His fist readies at that moment to strike him mid-air. The extra is unconscious while ketchup flows from his nostrils, and he doesn't notice a monstrous punch coming his way at that moment, thus hitting his face as if it were a real bullet. Our protagonist declares that a bunch of gangsters who dare to hurt the weak are the worst kind of people to talk about any type of pride in his presence. Sun Jun is completely terrified as he watches the man coming toward him. Their heads then collide, causing immense pain to both. The long-haired guy puts his hands on his face as he realizes his nose is broken at that moment, and in front of him, our protagonist remains standing among several unconscious bodies of his henchmen. The boy keeps asking who's next while the cube tries to warn that he used all his strength at that moment. However, the boy knows this well, and it's just a bluff to make them believe they're at a disadvantage. Everyone there is shocked by the protagonist's combat abilities, which have surpassed that of a normal human. His initial judgment turned out to be mistaken, and so Sun Jun declares that it's over in the end. But suddenly we hear clapping echoing through the place. A man approaches, saying that the powerful people from the northern city are really idiots for not being able to deal with a child. Amid evil laughter, our protagonist thinks he will have to fight another army again. Our protagonist doesn't know who these people are until it's said that those uniforms resemble the ones from Changmin's school. The long-haired guy promptly realizes they came there to take advantage of him. They are the Huowen gang, and everyone wonders how they managed to get there. Then the man with the Goku hairstyle questions why these people are so weak, as they seem to be fighting like women. The long-haired guy promptly gets irritated with that while still injured. He heard that Sun Jun gave up looking for Shen Yao, and that's why he came to get her that day. Our protagonist hears that and is surprised for a moment, and then he asks everyone to pay close attention to what will be said since it will be the most important in the end. Because as long as he's there, he won't let anyone touch Shen Yao. However, the cube states that these people are carrying metal objects. The man then clicks his tongue lightly, not seeming surprised. Then he starts pulling a weapon from his back while saying the protagonist is interesting. Knives are equipped in their hands. Baseball bats are gripped with extreme firmness at that moment, and even chains are ready to be used against the protagonist in this fight. With a psychotic smile, the newcomer declares that Xiaoxu is just a child who doesn't understand his place. Our protagonist says that this is very bad because his strength is completely exhausted. They all begin to advance, saying they will show him the true strength of real gangsters. And once they destroy Xiaoxiao, they will teach how powerful Changnan School really is. Our protagonist quickly manages to dodge an attack, realizing that this guy has no real sense of combat in the end. Then he starts running as fast as possible, saying that this is not how students should be fighting. He needs to find a solution as quickly as possible to deal with everyone at once. The boy clicks his tongue upon realizing that the gym door is locked and there's nothing he can do. Then, completely tense, he questions why this never ends. However, he remembers something because he still has abilities that can be used. Everyone is startled as they realize he simply vanished all at once. Suddenly, the lights go out throughout the entire place. Everyone there thinks it's a power failure that shut off the lights. The leader asks who did that and sends one of his henchmen to check the breaker as quickly as possible. However, our protagonist apologizes, saying it's now his turn to attack while using his radiation vision. Several screams of pain can be heard in the sudden darkness. The man starts running as he tries to find the breaker. As he approaches, he realizes someone has completely shut off the power in the place. As soon as he turns it back on, he says he fulfilled his task. And when he turns around, he says they can continue. However, he ends up widening his eyes in immense surprise. Our protagonist says it was very kind of them to give him a chance to survive. Even though he was tired, he still had enough strength to perform his stealth attack on them. In the end, the Changnan gang, equipped with extremely heavy weapons, ended up being annihilated in front of Sun Jun, and so he wonders whether Wang Xiaoxiu is still human after all. Soon someone knocks on the door saying to come immediately because the school teachers have arrived. Our protagonist notices this and turns his attention there. Shen Yao ended up calling them because our protagonist really needs help at this moment. The boy scratches his head, realizing that things are not going so well after all, since a fight is not a good thing. Then he points at Sun Jun, questioning where he's sneaking off to at that moment. And with a serious tone, he asks if he's really trying to run after causing so much chaos. Completely terrified, the man tries to say he no longer wants to cause any problems and begs to be spared from any sudden attacks. Our young man approaches him saying that it will mainly depend on the next actions of this idiot. After a long conversation, Sun Jun ended up admitting the wrong things he did, and the case was closed as a fight between two rival gangs. In the end, our protagonist was recognized as a victim who got involved in the violence between gangsters without any apparent fault. After some time, the principal came to announce that, as a result, 30 students were hospitalized while 26 of them were punished with lighter injuries. Unexpectedly, the number of people was spectacular, and the students say this was a battle to determine which gang would be the strongest in the school. And for our protagonist, his relationships kept improving more and more. After a while, the two even agreed to go to school together in the end. Due to certain friendships, they keep criticizing the fact that his development is slow. However, he has something more important to do, because this is the beginning of his journey to find more treasures after all. Soon we see a bar known as Nozo Noti, where someone inside says he'll probably get his revenge. The long-haired man questions what he means by that, since there's no chance they can beat that boy after all. However, the one with the Goku hair says they don't have to dirty their hands. After all, he heard rumors that young Master Lu has returned. Sun Jun is startled by that since it's the name of one of the great families, but then he questions if he's really planning to ask for help, as it's a crazy choice. But the man, laughing, tells him to calm down. After all, the master may be a major figure, but he suffered a great downfall 2 years ago. He heard that he was humiliated by a figure even greater than himself. It's said that the name of that person is Kaksai Guken, who led the man from the Lu family to one of the greatest downfalls of his life. Soon, the long-haired guy is shocked by this, as that man is somehow involved with Shin Yao. The young master ended up launching a search for Kaksai Guken to get his revenge. And all they need to do is create a light white lie to get the master's help to destroy the protagonist. In the end, that target is key, because Yan Lu is not someone easy to deal with after all. However, his companion ends up saying that he's backing out of this mess that's being suggested. The other is surprised by that since he's admitting defeat and questions if he's really going to do that in the end. And the long-haired one confirms yes, since he doesn't want a revenge that could cost him the safety of his own life. As Sun Jun leaves, the other keeps calling him a coward repeatedly. However, the man knows well that his companion is actually a complete lunatic who has no sense of his own life. Then we see another day where the sky is clearer than ever. Our protagonist, together with his future girlfriend, are leaning near a staircase. At that moment, they are playing a game where the girl asks which hand it's in, and the answer is the left. She is surprised that he gets it right every time, to which he replies that he has telepathy or something like that. Then the girl, with an excited tone, says that Xiaoxiu seems to be hiding some secret and asks him to tell her immediately. Our boy promptly raises his hand saying that this is for her. In the end, it's a small stone made by him. The girl recognizes it as a malachite, which turns out to be extremely romantic. After all, you can clearly see a small light flowing from the stone in her hand. Our young man found it near the river, which makes the girl happy to see that he's so lucky. The Q tries to say that he's spending it recklessly because it's a rare gem and can't be wasted on an ordinary girl, and Xiao tells it to shut up. 3 days ago, he was planning to start his journey in search of treasures. After fighting, he realized that his strength is not enough after all, and that's why he needs to find a way to increase his power. For that, he would need to fuse more gems, and his first step was precisely to start in the city. The Q promptly told him that there was something valuable inside that electric pillar. Even in another place, which was a jewelry store, the woman asked what he would like to take. However, the boy was too poor and said he was just looking at what they had to offer. The city is full of gems that are impossible to count in the end, and even animals walk around with them. And that was the reason for deciding to go outside the city to search for treasures that had no owners. He even stored all kinds of equipment inside his Q-shaped box. In the end, his spirit connected with nature, and he reached Lojin Mountain, where the true search would begin. And he quickly managed to find one, but it was inside a massive natural structure. Even another one nearby was right in the middle of the immense lake in front of him. And upon asking the Q, he realizes there's even another one closer 50 meters below the surface. In the end, that ends up being a huge difficulty and frustrates him. Getting that is impossible, even knowing the exact location of the gem. Promptly, the Q calls out to our protagonist saying there's something in the middle, which leaves him confused. It is said that there is a large hole beneath him and a strong gem energy is nearby. Most likely, our boy has found the salt deposit or a cavern beneath him. Hiraxu can even sense the space inside the cavity but can't teleport there. It's said that as an explorer, he needs to at least find a gap of at least 1 centimeter to get there. Our protagonist is surprised by this and begins to walk, realizing that the gap is right there. In the end, if the cavity is big enough, then he will be able to find an entrance from the surface. Then he starts thinking and remembers a place where there might be a passage. He then begins to run quickly, saying that must be the place. Soon, he reaches a location with several rocks gathered there, because this is a clearing that naturally formed over the years. If there's going to be a gap, then it will definitely be connected there. Quickly, our boy enters the water, taking light steps at that moment, then saying that he will use his radiation vision to find any gap. In the end, finding something beneath the water can be a major challenge. The surroundings are beautiful, and his radiation vision is helping him a lot at that moment. After a short time, he finally finds a place where the aura seems thick enough to teleport him. Then the young man stretches out his hands, saying that he's going to test it right away. And as he pulls and releases his breath, his body instantly vanishes from there. With the first step, we can see that the boy already slips on something wet. Thus, his body immediately falls forward due to the surprise. And on the ground, he can only admit that the terrain is completely slippery. To make things worse, he forgot to turn on his flashlight before entering the place. As soon as he does, he notices that the location is extremely cold compared to the outside. The moment he looks ahead, he starts to reason about the cave he is in. It appears to have at least a 10-degree difference compared to the outside. In the end, this still seems to be a cave with no exit or entrance after all. And it's visible that the entire surface of the rocks is wet, and being in a place like this makes the boy's heart tremble. He continues walking without any apparent concern, until suddenly, something passes in front of him at an enormous speed. Our young man is startled and questions what that could be while tossing his flashlight upward. Upon catching it, he sees it's a frog that adapted to the place and now manages to move in this dark environment. He has no reason to be afraid. After all, if he encounters danger, he can hide inside the cube. For now, he needs to minimize the use of his teleportation, since it's not feasible to use it all the time. With small steps, our boy continues entering the place, until suddenly, he reaches a wall where he claims to have found the endpoint of the cave. Mapping it in his mind, it's clear that the place is even large, yet not as he had imagined. And so he shouts that there must be some way to keep going until he reaches the gem. After all, he remembers there was a path. Soon in thought, he assumes there may be 2 caves and ends up not accepting that you will go home empty-handed after all. But suddenly, something ends up catching his attention out of nowhere, that being a current of wind passing by him at that exact moment, which means this is not a completely closed cave as he had thought. He must be patient and find a gap that forms another hole around this place. With his huge nose, he can feel the wind current getting stronger as he continues to move forward, and quickly, something catches his attention and makes him look upward. After all, he finally found what he was looking for, as it is a hole the size of a palm. He ends up unsure whether it was naturally formed or even dug by an animal. But if a normal adventurer found this, they probably wouldn't have any choice but to stop. However, our boy is lucky not to be someone normal. So he places his fingers on his forehead, using his teleportation just like Goku from Dragon Ball. We can then see the highlighted point where Xiaoxiu is trying to reach, and his body appears at the location all at once, showing us the success of his technique. Quickly, he extends his flashlight forward, saying he can feel the energy reaction not far from there. But he doesn't realize he is about to step into an abyss right in front of him. However, he ends up stepping back as he questions why it is so dark after all. Our protagonist quickly points his flashlight to analyze, and soon lets out a desperate scream upon realizing that he is right at the edge of a cliff at that moment. He thanks God for making him notice he was so close to getting into serious trouble. Walking backward, however, the young man doesn't notice that there is another drop. Thus, his leg slides downward, signaling the possible end for our boy. His body is thrown backward as his center of mass loses balance. However, Xiaoxiu makes his maximum effort to rotate his arms and regain balance, and he manages to throw himself forward and avoid falling into the abyss. Looking down, he realizes that his flashlight, his only source of vision, ended up breaking among the stalactites. In the end, Mount Laojin seems to have an extremely large hidden area. He's heard that it takes thousands of years for this to occur, and maybe he is the first human to have arrived there. Nature is truly amazing, according to his words, and the Q calls out to him saying it can sense the energy of the stones. Our young man, looking upward and ahead, can also observe that they are stalactites located a great distance away. In the end, it is even unexpected that such an abundance of energy would be emitted from such small points, so he becomes completely excited as he will gain great benefit from this. He then begins to calm himself, saying he needs to plan his move while something seems to be watching him at that moment. Quickly, the boy realizes that the place is a bit dangerous and that he should be able to reach the gem if he uses his teleport twice. While planning, the strange figure behind him keeps moving between the rocks. It is a snake watching him while he thinks he might be able to use his shovel. As he prepares to leave, he fails to notice that the creature is about to devour him. In a single leap, the snake lunges all at once with its fierce fangs. However, our protagonist, with his fingers on his forehead, says they are about to begin. As the snake tries to bite, it ends up only snapping its jaws in the air with no sign of the boy. Confusion is visible in the animal, which doesn't understand how the boy vanished so suddenly. Our protagonist, upon arriving in another spot, says his first move was a complete success after all. And now it should be easy to move to the next step, as he must wait 1 minute before using his ability again. With his flashlight broken, he is lucky to still have his phone with him. His steps are calm as he tries to navigate through those rock formations. He quickly reaches the edge, which lies directly ahead in the form of a cliff. He can now see the gems ahead of him only a few steps away. However, reaching them will be the hardest part since the stalagmite is too small to teleport onto. He doesn't think it will offer enough balance. The most difficult part will be the cooldown of his ability, which doesn't allow him to teleport again. He must be careful not to die in such an insignificant place, as that's something that could happen. He has to think carefully and decides to teleport to a rock near the wall, which should be much safer. In the end, as he thinks about the value of his life and safety being what matters most, the snake approaches again. It is calmly slithering toward our protagonist to devour its prey. In the end, the cooldown time finally ends as the snake lunges forward. It bites the air again while our protagonist says he managed to do it. Not in the best pose, but it works. The animal remains both surprised and irritated by what's happening, as it can't understand how this is possible. Our boy ties a rope to the stalagmite so he won't lose control of the space around him, and the cube informs him that it detected a total of 12 energies reacting in the stones. He begins to tear up with joy. After all, at the same time he might get rich, he could become a superhero if he fuses them all at once. Stuck in that place, the young man starts picking up the stones with a note saying not to do this at home. After all this time, he finally got what he came for. It wasn't easy at all, and he has to thank the world for the gift he's being given. In the distance, the snake keeps slithering angrily toward our protagonist, who continues teleporting and escaping it. The boy says the last gem seems different from the others that were there, and so he uses his shovel to break it and knock it down at that moment. However, he isn't able to catch it all at once as it suddenly slips from his hand. He quickly senses something strange because while shouting, he hears the sound of something diving into the water. He soon realizes that was unexpected. After all, he had no idea what was down there. And so he reasons that he forgot to use his radiation vision since he's used to relying only on his eyes. As soon as he activates it, a mist and a huge pool of water can clearly be seen in that area. However, upon looking around, he notices something strange that suddenly catches his attention. Tension is visible in his eyes as they widen all at once, because the snake is coming to devour him in one strike while he was distracted. He uses his shovel to block the bite of the blind animal that was coming at him, and so he ends up slipping on the stalagmite at that exact moment. Quickly, both of them begin to fall toward the pool of water, even while tied to a rope. The object manages to hold him, since it is attached to the rock at that moment. Our protagonist can feel the pain of being pulled by such a thin material around his waist. However, what he did not foresee was that the rope would snap at that exact moment, thus throwing him and the snake down all at once. Both begin to fall toward the pool of water to meet their end at that moment. As soon as they dive, it's clear that the snake is even larger than previously thought. Our boy starts releasing air due to the immense pain along with the snake that's with him. Quickly, he gets up and then strikes the enormous beast in front of him with his shovel. Hiraxiu tries to call the cube to teleport, but it's impossible since he cannot carry another life form that weighs more than half of him. Our protagonist is impressed by this and realizes that the serpent is wrapped around him, which means the cube would end up taking it along in the process. Quickly, the beast tries to lunge once more with its mouth, but our protagonist defends himself with his shovel at that moment. However, the creature's tail whips toward him like a real whip, and it hits him directly in the face, sending him flying backward. The shock is visible at that moment because the damage caused was immense after all. The animal immediately takes advantage of this to lunge at him with its mouth full of teeth. However, once again, it bites nothing but air as our protagonist manages to teleport. Quickly, he ends up falling to the ground, saying he finally escaped alive. It's clear that the snake is enraged at that moment, and we now see the outside of the cube. Our protagonist curses the animal because it hit his face with extreme force, which hurts terribly. He then orders Horadric to fuse all the gems as fast as possible. The cube informs him that all those 11 pieces are in the low category after all, and now possess enough quality to be fused. Our protagonist is surprised by this statement, to which it's said that it will be better explained. The gems that have been obtained are now of low level, and if he has 3 of them, he will be able to form a medium level one in a single fusion. The same then applies to medium level gems, which can be fused into one special high level gem in the end. The difference between a bunch of low level stones and one high level gem can be compared to a world hero and a soldier from an ordinary army with no special powers. Low-level additions are only of basic elements, but high-level ones can even grant a special element and new power to our protagonist. And so the cube asks if he wants to fuse them, to which he says of course he does. After all, he wants to become stronger and stronger. However, it's stated that the fusion needs at least 100 hours to be completed after all. Our protagonist is shocked by this and questions if that much loading time is really necessary, to which it's said that it's absolutely necessary and 2 will remain, which can be used now, something our protagonist quickly understands. The cube, concerned, asks if he really still wants to fuse them into a higher grade, to which our boy affirms yes, after all, he wants those higher level gems. Just like last time, the changes made to his body already allowed him to fight people he never dreamed of in his life, and now, even with just 2 pieces, it should be enough for what he's planning. Besides that, Xiaoxiu still has the ability to teleport once per minute, so he should be able to defeat the snake, and the cube informs him that his agility and mental strength have increased to an exponential level. Quickly, the reptile senses his presence while our protagonist thinks that there is always a guardian protecting the world's most important treasures. The boy calls out to the creature, which begins to charge at him with maximum speed. However, it suddenly stops because it senses something strange at that moment. Wang Xiaoxiu doesn't understand at first why that is, as it seems so sudden. However, what the young man doesn't know is that an animal's instincts are sharper than they appear, and at that moment it identified a major change in the protagonist. After all, in just a few seconds, a prey has just become its natural enemy. Soon the snake runs away as fast as possible, completely terrified of Wang. The young man remains confused at first, not understanding why. However, he stays silent for a long moment because the results have finally appeared, and now he has managed to resolve everything and save himself from any further trouble. Soon the hero was able to easily find the 12th gem that had fallen. It was not like the others, as it had a radiant green tone, which the Q claimed was just another low-level gem like all the others that had been absorbed. In the end, it was inexplicably beautiful, and so he found a better use for it at that moment, and we can see someone saying goodbye to our protagonist. It was Shen Yao, who waved to him with a blushing face. Our boy responded with a warm and even confident smile at that moment. The young girl said she really liked the gift she was given and promised to keep it for her entire life from that point on. Xiaoxi smiled happily at that, feeling like he was on cloud 9. And so he came to realize that he didn't know how valuable that smile he was admiring would turn out to be. Soon we can see the next day when the sun would already be setting over the city. Our boy is on a street, wondering why Shen Yao hasn't answered her phone. After all, she's never late. However, he hears something unexpected, as apparently there was a line of police cars at the Shanghai apartment building, which looked like an extreme crime scene. Our protagonist calms down, thinking she probably just overslept, which wouldn't be unusual at all. But then he remembers that this apartment is exactly where Shen Yao lives with her mother. That makes his eyes widen instantly as he realizes the situation is worse than he had thought. Soon his body started moving on its own, breaking into a run toward what already had a foreseen outcome. He wasn't even that tired, but fear and dread showed on his face because of what he was anticipating. Upon arriving, we can see reporters and even the police surrounding the entire apartment at that very moment in an extremely noisy situation. Xiaoxi widens his eyes, completely scared and confused by the scene he's about to witness. A woman tries to say that when she arrived, there was spray paint all over the place, and her daughter had vanished. She begs them to find a way to save her girl. After all, she's in extreme danger. She even received a call from the kidnappers who said not to involve people who would be unnecessary to them. The officer says they are already investigating, and it seems the media is certain this is happening due to bad influences, as it's said that they didn't want money. The reporter announces that this scene and public outcry are only being staged to go viral on social media, as described in the phone call to the victim's mother. The one who was kidnapped was a student also named Shen Yao, and this makes our boy's heart race faster with imminent despair before him. And soon he kneels down, questioning who would be capable of doing something like that to such a kind person as his friend. While he's lost in thought, we see a striking figure in the crowd. It's Sun Jun, who seems to be involved in this somehow. This becomes apparent to our protagonist, who turns in that direction. The long-haired man, apparently trying to escape, ends up heading into a nearby alley. He's on high alert, hoping no one notices his presence. However, while distracted and walking, he bumps directly into someone. Arrogantly, the man grabs his shirt and starts cursing repeatedly, unaware of something crucial, because previously Wang Xiaoxiu was the one who wiped out his group of henchmen. Startled, the man tries to apologize over and over again. The protagonist asks why his colleague is so nervous, and before the other can answer, a punch is thrown at the wall next to him. Cho asks if Sun Jun knows what's going on. He then warns him that he's not in a good mood, so he better stay calm and answer his question properly. Meanwhile, our view shifts to a place farther away from there, where a young master is informed that preparations are already complete. Lately, Yang Lu has noticed his uncle has been very busy. The old man tries to call the young master to warn him about something. However, the wealthy man says he hates liars who try to use him, but if there's even a small chance to bring down Exeguken, he'll take it above all else. We then see the spiky-haired man holding a pin in his mouth as the bat approaches his face. It's said that even if the plan had been made by someone like Hu Huan, there's no escaping punishment for liars, even smart ones. The man lying on the ground tries to beg his master for mercy, and we hear the sound of a bat hitting something hard. Nearby, we see our protagonist's friend gagged and tied to a chair. Xiaoxiu demands to know why Shen Yao was kidnapped. Sun Jun explains that Hu Hu tried to recruit him and even contacted Liu Xiao. Our protagonist must have heard of the Kneeling Carp Gate, which was a historic event for that city. There, one of the city's most important men ended up being assaulted and because of that called his uncle, who was extremely influential at the time. However, upon arriving, the powerful man kneeled before the Liu family and punched his grandson in the face, ordering him to kneel as well. Even with the car at an incredible distance, both remained trembling in fear and showed respect to the one who had already left. In the end, Master Liu truly has a terrifying past. And so our protagonist asks who exactly this Exeguken is, as he had been mentioned before. It's said that he must have heard of him, since he's connected to Shen Yao. During her second year, the protagonist's friend got involved in something dangerous. She remembers it clearly since she was saved by a kind person and the school spent a huge amount of money to keep it all secret. It's then revealed that the person who saved her was Exeguken. It's said that he was just an ordinary student who suddenly became famous, and to Master Liu, this man is extremely dangerous. The reason lies with the left hand of the family, as 2 of his fingers are missing, and the one responsible was none other than that man. The Yen family is always prepared and has even tried hiring high-ranking assassins, but strangely, this man always survives. It said the reason is more wrapped in rumors than facts, but Kagaguken proves to be an extremely dangerous person in the end. Our protagonist says it's a lot of information and asks how he knows so much. He replies that it might be news to him, but it's important not to be ignorant of the things happening around you. Still, it's strange because no one knows how Huyan had the skill to strike a deal with those people. He then says he's not sure, but clearly remembers something that was said the night before. That smile on his face clearly meant they were planning to eliminate both Exeguken and our protagonist at once. However, upon hearing all that, Sun Jun had a bad feeling and left the place, luckily, since he's certain Hu Huan was forced into it. Our hero remained silent for a long moment. Then he turned his back, surprising his colleague, who asked what he was planning to do. He is answered with the claim that he'll beat up everyone who's keeping Shen Yao locked up. Sun Jun even tries to question if he realizes the danger he's getting himself into, since not even the police could interfere in something involving someone that powerful. However, Xiao runs off, saying he appreciates the information and for that reason will forgive what happened earlier. The long-haired man stares forward in disbelief. His friend really hasn't changed at all. And when he looks at the completely cracked wall, he realizes this terrifying identity is more than he imagined. With heavy breathing, our young man keeps moving forward with the help of his ability. It's said that normally detecting low-level gems from a long distance is impossible. However, the one that was with the protagonist's friend has already been analyzed, entered into the queue, and then stored in the system. The mobster quickly approaches his uncle, asking if he's still worried he won't be able to defeat his opponent. To which the elder responds that several people have gathered, but even so, it might still be difficult to defeat someone with that level of proficiency. With a twisted face, the boy demands a little faith. After all, he put a lot of effort into this plan. A puppet nearby suddenly declares that the elder is saying unnecessary things. Because first, he didn't join forces with anyone, and second, he's only there to get his personal revenge and sees a big opportunity in this. The others are surprised by what's being said, and the old man can only grow irritated. Still, the young ventriloquist apologizes for his little friend, but admits he had a point that needed to be made. The guy with the weird hair ends up saying they share a common enemy, so he's more than happy to do things his own way in this situation. And so we can see the elder knows this man is a monster, and his arrogance shows he holds real power to be used. Soon we see in the distance the building where several people are positioned in strategic locations. Our protagonist approaches as the cube states the energy is coming directly from that building. But caution is never too much, and so the cube reports that 7 massive energy waves are currently being detected. Our protagonist asks how the gem fusion is going, to which it's said they'll be completed in a few more hours. From afar, someone informs their master that there's a suspect in position 2 who appears to be a high school student. The man gets excited and says they should savor it, but above all, they must capture him alive, since the leader's desire is to kill him personally. Suddenly, the cube reports the target stronger than the protagonist has been detected approaching at high speed. And then we see a giant asking why so much caution, since they're about to have some fun. Our protagonist remarks that he must have come from a strange place to have such an ugly face, and that appearance sends shivers down his spine. The man keeps speaking into his communicator, saying the target is under his control, and that he has no problem handling him. After all, little boys are his favorites when it comes to playtime. Our protagonist notices an opening and thinks he should make the first move as quickly as possible. Then he fires a punch straight at the man in front of him. We then hear a sound coming from a device that just hit the ground. The leader looks at his walkie-talkie and says the signal was suddenly cut, meaning a fight must have just started. We see the two of them are at a certain distance from each other in that moment. However, the fighter starts laughing and trembling intensely. Our protagonist thinks he's completely insane in the end. After all, his speed was nearly impossible to follow, and he even dodged with his hair at the last second. And he did it with such ease it looked almost magical. Spinning his arm, the giant says Shiaxu is strong for someone still in school. But he should know one thing, no matter how high his stats are here. In the world of underground fights, he'd be completely out of his league. And cheating is more than common, and when facing danger, the only way to survive is by controlling the distance between you and your target. No matter how powerful the student's punches are, it'll be impossible for him to land a hit, since the man has already mastered footwork techniques. We then see his figure vanish all at once with terrifying speed. Our protagonist widens his eyes, instinctively going on the defensive. He barely manages to block a punch coming from the side with extreme difficulty. That wicked smile remains on the man's face as he says the fun is just getting started. Suddenly, a cannon-like punch is launched toward our protagonist. Seeing this, he realizes there's nowhere to hide. So he ducks down with a roar of fury echoing around him. In the end, he manages to gain an advantage thanks to his smaller size compared to the giant. He immediately launches a punch toward the face of that extremely strong man. But we see that in a quick series of moves, the fighter narrowly dodges the attack and admits it was a good attempt. Our protagonist is surprised that someone could dodge even that, being just a human without the help of the system. Then we see the fat man create distance again, laughing a bit. He asks if now he can see how he's able to control the distance from his opponent however he wants, without any difficulty. Our protagonist wonders what the hell is wrong with this guy since he can dodge everything almost instantly. However, agility seems to be his only strong point, which gives our protagonist an advantage now that he knows this. With a cocky grin, he declares that he's about to show how to bring down a moving wall that fast. The man tells the boy to stop overthinking so much, saying he's already memorized all his attacks and will finish it with the next one. But the young man asks if he's sure about that. Then he vanishes in front of him at a terrifying speed. The giant's whole body starts trembling as he realizes his enemy is using speed to approach from both his left and right flank at once. But at that exact moment, a jump is executed directly toward him. Our young hero comes from the front, just as the tall man expected in the end. He dodges the blow, saying it's nothing special for someone with his skill level. Immediately after, he launches his own punch, stating that being a rookie in that place has a cost due to lack of experience. However, something suddenly catches his attention, flying toward his face. It hits him all at once, shattering several of his teeth, and slams him against a nearby wall. He wonders how that could be possible, since he was sure he dodged it. But our protagonist was clever and pulled out a hammer, noting that it's actually illegal under boxing rules. However, they're not in a ring, so he took advantage of his skills in that moment. We then see that the man begins to lose consciousness, and he passes out, handing the victory to our protagonist. The elder immediately gets up, realizing that this outcome was completely unexpected after all. The man then calls for the young master, saying there's now one less person in his group. The old man reports that Pablo from the second station has just been eliminated. The teenager doesn't look surprised and simply admits it was somewhat expected. Then, with a grin, he says this just got more fun after all. He pulls out his walkie-talkie to announce the defeat of one of their members to everyone. Then he proposes a simple game. Whoever kills the intruder first will receive the commission of the other members who are eliminated, and they'll even get a bonus if they manage to bring him to the recording room. While all that's happening, our boy continues racing up the stairs as fast as he can, wondering why there's no elevator. Meanwhile, the rich guy opens the gate where the protagonist's friend is being held. He immediately calls her name while she struggles in agony. The man says that waiting is extremely exhausting and boring, so he suggests they watch a movie together. Several TVs are turned on in the room, catching her attention. They display camera footage showing our protagonist making his way up to rescue her, and with a wicked smile, the master wonders how many floors he'll manage to climb to reach her. Our young hero jumps step by step as fast as he can so he doesn't waste any time. But Kubo suddenly warns him to be careful with what's in front of him, and just in time, he manages to dodge something that was suddenly launched at him. We then see a kick land right on his face at that moment, sending him flying backward into the stairs, and then causing him to fall into the gap right in the middle of where he had been climbing. The young man with his baboon-like expression can only widen his eyes in shock at that moment. Shenyo tries her hardest to scream out the name of our protagonist. However, the boy can only panic in a situation that might very well precede his death. We then see the one responsible questioning why he's so weak after all. It makes no sense that someone like him defeated Pablo. But we quickly realize that Shiaoxi was clever enough to grab onto one of the stairs' edges. While swinging himself, he assumes the attacker must be insane because that nearly killed him. Spinning his weapon in hand, the ninja admits the protagonist is terrible and wonders if Pablo was feeling sick. Maybe that's why he lost. We then see our boy breathing heavily as he stares upward. At that moment, the man makes a gesture, signaling him to follow to a certain location. Xiaoxiu even tries yelling, asking what the hell is going on, and the cube informs him to be cautious, since this enemy's battle power is at 75. But the boy completely ignores the warning and declares he'll deliver a well-deserved punishment to that idiot. Xiaoxiu quickly enters the room, yelling that this bastard is completely infuriating. And so we see the rank C assassin sitting on a couch in the middle of the room. He admits he doesn't like getting blood on his hands. It's just not really his style. That's why he prefers using blades to cut his enemies down and eliminate them as fast as possible. Our protagonist states he's not strong enough to just slash through him, since he also has weapons he can use with ease. After all, Xiaoxiu has 7 full excavation tools stored inside his inventory. The scared man then thinks to himself that getting a reward for eliminating the boy is only making things worse. The rich guy concludes that the place he chose is impressive, but his partner can't wait any longer, so he must fight as fast as possible. Then we see his figure vanish into the red couch in the center of the room. Our protagonist watches as he catches sight of movements that are incredibly fast, and so he strikes back against the man rushing toward him. His weapon is cut along with part of his shoulder. At that exact moment, the boy looks at it, pain visible in his eyes as he turns toward the assassin. The man realizes he managed to dodge the attack, which is impressive. He was certain he would have killed him if not for that stroke of luck. Our protagonist holds onto the severed parts while cursing at his opponent right then and there, and then hurls the item at him as fast as possible with all his strength. But with a simple spin of his blade, the scarred man slices the attack in half, asking if that's really the best he can do. Our protagonist appears right in front of him, saying it was just a distraction, and thanks him for putting in all that effort. The man lunges forward with his kunai, saying it's not bad for a rookie, but he'll never win, and asks if a twig could actually hurt him. What he didn't expect was that our boy used the hammer trick again to strike the enemy straight in the privates. That's the protagonist's secret technique called pulling a hammer out of nowhere. The rich man watching the fight immediately asks how he managed to pull off a move like that against a rank C assassin and martial artist. The old man admits it looks like he uses some kind of special technique that lets him switch weapons between hands with incredible speed. That was to be expected from an intruder of this level. Someone who can adapt this well in battle is truly a worthy opponent. But the spoiled teen questions why this kid is giving them so much trouble and wonders whether Lee Cha-dae will actually be able to beat him. The injured man with difficulty insists that he's fine. This kind of wound is nothing for someone who's trained his entire life. Now it's time for this joke to end. He's going to suffer the consequences of having pissed off someone like him. However, the boy quickly uses his shovel to strike his opponent on the head with extreme force, and then states that an assassin like this is seriously strong, just as he expected, since he's even managing to get back up after taking a hit like that. Completely irritated, the man ends up saying the other should at least let him finish his catchphrase. However, our protagonist doesn't care about that kind of thing and just assumes that his level 75 strength power really explains his monstrous resistance. He then says that people should strike the metal while it's still hot so it won't be able to hit back. But soon Kubo warns him to be careful because something is coming. The boy hears this and protects the back of his neck with his shovel, which is sliced at that very moment. He wonders what just happened, since that should be impossible for someone lying on the ground. Suddenly, something is seen flying through the air, moving in curves. Our young hero notices it approaching his back imminently. He manages to dodge with his extreme agility, though he still takes minor damage. He quickly distances himself from the body of his opponent lying on the floor. You can feel the aura of danger enveloping his entire body in that moment. The man starts to rise rapidly, like a sort of undead zombie, and holding his communicator in his hands, he has the gaze of a true killer. He then crushes the device in one go with overwhelming strength, slamming it to the ground and making our protagonist's confusion even more obvious. The wealthy man watching also notices that the situation is different from the usual behavior he observed in this assassin. The assassin decides it's time to use his special technique now that things have reached this point. The spoiled teenager quickly asks why that idiot turned off the communicator and went to an area away from the cameras. His old man replies that every martial artist has a unique technique that shouldn't be shown to outsiders out of personal pride. The assassin quickly invites the protagonist to a special room that had been prepared specifically for Exekuken. But the young man proved himself worthy of witnessing something that goes beyond what is known as human limits. From within those four walls, the screams of victims become obsolete in the deep darkness. We then hear only his laughter echoing from that pitch-black place. Our protagonist immediately yells at his opponent not to run from this fight and thinks to himself that things could go badly if he receives reinforcements. This ninja acknowledges that anyone could notice his technique with a kunai, but his greatest trump card is echolocation. As a descendant of the Lee clan, he was once thrown into a dark pit filled with insects and poisonous snakes. There, he discovered his talent and honed it to the point that he could sense even the location of a mosquito. And while he was in that place, his presence became one with the shadows, making him practically invisible. After all, the prey would be blind in the darkness, so their strength wouldn't matter in that moment. But our protagonist is no ordinary person in the end. And so the assassin doesn't expect what's coming from this newly arrived young man. The boy is able to see him clearly and slaps him across the face with a casual strike. With his face completely swollen, the man questions what's happening, since the boy shouldn't be able to see his presence. While jumping around our protagonist, he wonders if the boy can also see through sound the way he does, which should be impossible. He then concludes it must have been just luck and refuses to believe otherwise, charging in to destroy him. However, our protagonist uses his hammer and lands another hit on the man's groin just as he was coming in to eliminate him. We then see that he has micro-radiation vision and remarks that it took 2 hits to bring him down, which proves this was a real challenge. The rich guy quickly asks how powerful Lee Cha-dae really is, and the older man begins to think carefully. Our protagonist admits he wasted too much time there and needs to hurry up the stairs to save his friend. But something suddenly catches his attention, making him wonder how that's even possible. We return to the old man saying that Lee Cha-dae is extremely powerful. In the end, there are just over 20 assassins who qualify for rank C among martial artists, and while his echolocation is very useful, his main ability is telekinesis. The spoiled one is impressed that he possesses a superpower of such magnitude. We then see our protagonist dodging the blow, realizing his opponent is still conscious. And the old man states that telekinesis isn't much on its own, but when combined with assassination techniques, it becomes a huge problem for anyone. We return to the fight where the knife is flying as fast as possible, curving through the air. Our boy narrowly dodges it, but realizes he can't keep this up. The assassin spins his weapon in his hand while it's said that his strength should never be underestimated by anyone. He then says he didn't have time to focus or sync with his weapon, and even though he's lost all his strength, he can still win if he uses his secret technique. Our young man realizes these attacks are incredibly fast, and he needs to dodge as quickly as possible to gain a more advantageous position in this fight. But his hammer ends up getting hit and sliced, making him realize not even that could block it. The man gets irritated since the weapon he uses was specifically made for combat and can't be compared to that thing our protagonist uses. In the end, that allows him to handle his man with incredible ease, and now all he has to do is watch as he reduces the intruder to nothing. But quickly, the young man jumps toward the blade, managing to grab it with his hand. He asks if his enemy really thought that same attack would work twice after noticing that its trajectory slows down over time. Breathing heavily and laughing, the man thinks he's successfully trapped our protagonist. He then reveals that his knife can't be stolen under any circumstances, and now it's in his hands right near the boy's throat. He points his fingers forward, executing his assassin technique meant to slice the target's throat. However, something goes wrong, and he starts coughing up blood from every hole in his head. Our young man feels embarrassed, wondering if that's really supposed to be an assassin move. The man on the floor then asks where his weapon is, since all the power was channeled into it and it ended up coming back at him. Our young man, disgusted, asks if this isn't just a really bad joke coming from an assassin. He thinks he got a truly valuable weapon and made sure to store it inside his cube space. The man remains unable to fight and, while coughing, begs for his weapon that disappeared into the young man's hands. Our protagonist immediately runs away as it's stated that the bounty has just increased once again. The spoiled teen questions how that's even possible. No normal student should be capable of something like that. The old man called Baewan admits it's true in the end, but this intruder doesn't seem like a real threat after all. We then see the rich guy calling on the walkie-talkie, ordering them to take him down as fast as possible, since he's starting to doubt the martial arts alliance. Now we see a fighter has arrived, stating that the protagonist's life is currently worth over $800,000. A massive amount. The old man quickly tells his companion that they should go check out the person who took down the prodigy. The girl immediately asks if her uncle will be alright, and he says he'll do a quick calculation, then says that 10 seconds is the maximum Beowulf needs to defeat the protagonist, and she must have already noticed the man's at the peak of rank C. The girl then asks if that's the same reason she has to wear those bracelets to protect herself from her weakness, to which he replies that everyone has something they wish to protect or forget, and that doesn't make them weaker at all. We now return to our protagonist, who's being choked while it's stated that he can't use useless tricks in the face of absolute strength. And no one has ever escaped his perfect rear naked choke, as the cube reports that 50 seconds remain for the gem absorption. Hyaxu admits that's a long time. He can barely hold on for 5 seconds right now. Now he has only one last technique left, to use the cube's space. Trying to strike the man's wrist, he's quickly stopped by the fighter, who recognizes that this weapon belongs to his companion. But it suddenly disappears, surprising him. He's never seen anything like it before. Our protagonist states that this ability is extremely useful, as long as he has something available to use, and so he decides to strike the man's wrist. As soon as that's done by the boy, who is being choked, the lion lets go after seeing blood flow. Then, coughing, he tells the man that he almost killed him just now. Annoyed, the old man states that people with superpowers aren't a problem when you simply use all your strength to defeat them quickly. But the boy's mind goes blank for a moment as the gems are finally ready and are now fusing with his body. The fighter becomes completely furious with our protagonist for having the audacity to zone out in the middle of the fight. He grabs him by the shirt like a true monster, then slams him into the ground with all his strength, fueled by immense rage. But he doesn't think that's enough, so he grabs the boy by the ankle and hurls him against the wall, which cracks from the sheer force. Wiping his hands, the old man apologizes for turning his skinny body into a dead one. We then see the boy fall to the ground, but oddly, he doesn't appear to be hurt in any way. The assassin fighter finishes by saying he's sorry, but it was a decent fight. Suddenly, his face turns pale as the boy's voice echoes out in that moment. The old man asks how it's possible that he's still able to speak after being so brutally beaten, to which Xiaxi replies that he was just warming up, and we see all of his stats drastically increase. This completely stuns the fighter, who feels a different aura radiating from the boy. His eyebrows begin to furrow as he thinks the boy is underestimating his combat techniques. He charges in with clenched teeth, swearing he'll finish him off. The giant leaps at our protagonist all at once, while the boy stays calm. He grabs his arm effortlessly, as if he can see all his movements, then punches his opponent in the stomach with immense force, and follows with a kick to the groin, sending him flying away. His body instantly crashes into the wall with incredible force due to the protagonist's newfound power. A loud crashing sound echoes through the whole building from the impact. The little girl wonders what that was. It sounded like someone being thrown against something flat. The older man admits that was pretty powerful, and most likely his uncle has already killed the intruder. Our young hero looks at his hands, wondering if this is really the power of a high-ranking gem. But soon his body purification begins, confusing him. Suddenly, the boy starts bleeding through the pores of his skin. He immediately feels an involuntary pain and starts wondering what's happening. With his veins bulging, he asks his companion what's going on, and is told that his body is reacting to the power. It's expelling impurities to increase his combatabilities, and the boy says it feels like he's breaking apart piece by piece. Then suddenly, a strong hand grabs his head. It's the old man, who asks what made him think he had won so easily. In the end, the boy grabs his wrist, saying it's perfect, because getting beaten up might help him forget this pain he's feeling. After a while, we cut to the outside, where a loud noise is spreading. The rich guy asks what all that is, and his uncle says it must be the blows from the rank C martial artist. But elsewhere, the long-haired guy has just noticed something that seems strange about all of this. Then the old man, who has just arrived unseen, senses danger and chaos approaching. we see that all the walls in the area are cracked because of someone. That someone is our protagonist, who is now beating down the opponent that had been giving him such a hard time. In the end, he apologizes because he still can't control his strength very well. But thanks to being used as a punching bag, he now feels much better. Looking ahead, he sees two new figures immediately approaching. The girl looks around and sees the scene before her. She clearly sees the one who was at the peak of rank C completely wrecked on the ground. Kubo informs them that it's impossible to calculate the combat power of these new enemies, yet our protagonist, with foolish confidence, says both of them can come at him. The man quickly pulls out a device and sees that the boy's internal power level is 0. The girl does the same and realizes that his aura is also at that level, meaning he has no special power, which completely confuses Shiaxu. The old man ends up saying that the boy seems to have some kind of special combat ability that simply unleashes his power. That means it could be a cultivation method, which excites the girl since it might benefit her. And with a strange tone, she approaches and introduces herself as Kui Jilin, a rank B martial artist. The old man quickly asks what she's doing and notices something. We then see the girl asking how he's doing while suddenly grabbing his hand. Her grip quickly tightens as she's about to do something. That something being a punch, suddenly thrown at our protagonist's face all at once. Shiaxu is left stunned for a long moment. After all, this girl is a complete lunatic, just like he suspected. His fist then clenches with brutal force, and he strikes the girl in the face, whose strength was immense compared to his. With an irritated expression, the young man ends up saying he's doing just fine and asks about her. However, the girl clearly felt that energy flowing through her body. Because of past internal injuries, she's familiar with the feeling of pain and energy coursing inside. But this time, her entire being is immersed and melting in an energy that feels absolutely incredible. Like a glowing gem, unbelievably pure. Trembling with excitement, she can only ask what kind of cultivation technique the boy uses. Confused, the young man starts wondering if this opponent of his is some kind of pervert. He quickly tries to pull his hand away, but is stopped by the girl, who says they're just getting started. And so she pulls him closer and slams her fist into his stomach with such brutal force that it makes his eyes widen. But the boy quickly retaliates with a slap to her face, asking if that's all she's got, because that was way too weak. She snaps back, asking if he's even a man, given how weak his strength is. Shiaxu immediately calls her crazy and begs her not to force him to do something. But a kick flies into his face right at that moment, hitting him with brutal force. She says this isn't the time for talking, it's time to fight, so he should stop acting like a child. Watching all of this, the older man can only show visible embarrassment on his face. In his mind, the boy can only curse his opponent, who's basically begging to get beaten up. And he wonders whether he should go all out, but he's not sure what will happen. But in the end, she asks for it, and so he charges at her at full speed. The old man watches, realizing the boy's punch just broke the sound barrier. And the girl appears completely relaxed about it, accepting the incoming blow with her bare hand. Her body begins spinning through the air due to the sheer power that launched her far away. Her body gets fully embedded in a wall, her legs dangling in the air. At that exact moment, the boy looks at his fist, thinking he might have killed her, which even fills him with a bit of guilt. However, the girl simply starts trembling. And then with a swift motion, she leaps and lands on the ground freely. Our protagonist is shocked by it. It doesn't make sense for a kid to endure so much. The girl wipes her chin and says he's strong, but his speed is nothing special. Quickly, our protagonist thinks she must be some kind of monster if that didn't affect her. The old man then tries to say they should stop because someone might get seriously hurt. But the girl insists it's fine, since his physical attacks are actually very beneficial to her. She then climbs on top of the boy's upper body and prepares her forehead for a headbutt, slamming the boy's body backward. Taking advantage of the moment, she locks her legs and kicks him down to the floor while saying it's great to play like this while fighting. The boy screams in pain as he feels her hand touching his chest. The girl charges forward with her fist, saying it's time to finish this. But our protagonist grabs her, catching her off guard. He then spins his body, saying he's had enough. He thought she was just a girl or a normal woman, but that couldn't be more wrong. And we can see that on the other hand, the girl seems to be enjoying being in this kind of position. However, that only infuriates our protagonist even more, who calls her a rampant lunatic, and then strikes her nose with such force that the ketchup comes flying out. A sequence begins, and in her thoughts, we see that the girl is simply loving it because it's perfect. It's almost like poetry, and she begs for it to never stop, shouting for him to keep going. The young woman's head is already being completely affected by the blows, yet she refuses to stop. The old man watching questions if his companion is really okay in the end. And then he notices something, because the more she gets hit, the stronger she becomes, but that could be very dangerous. Soon, the old man realizes the girl is about to face real-life danger. We see that in the middle of all those hits, the girl continues loving the whole situation like a true masochist. However, after a slap, she says that's enough, but she gets hit again. Then a kick is launched at our protagonist's chin as the girl insists that it's already enough. The young man is thrown into the air, realizing that this hit was far stronger than any he'd taken before. And at that exact moment, the girl falls to her knees completely powerless. The old man accompanying her immediately realizes this is very bad. He approaches, asking if she's okay and if she's trying to push forward without having a body ready for this kind of thing. But we soon see that her face has now transformed into that of a werewolf to withstand the power of that strange little Manhwa. The older man begins applying pressure points, saying she cannot advance right now. Her bracelet is flashing while he calls her a complete idiot. He says that if the girl transforms, the limiter bracelet will most likely kill her instantly and wonders how Xiaoxiu has such pure power. The boy, struggling, begins to stand and asks himself whether this girl is some kind of monster or something like that. Then he notices she returned to normal after such a bizarre display. He immediately decides he doesn't care what happened, but that he must kill her no matter what. At that moment, we see the old man staring him down with a threatening glare. But our protagonist doesn't back down at any point, knowing that she's a real threat. With a palm movement, the older man orders the boy to get away from them. A pressure is then felt in the boy's stomach. It pushes all his weight back at once. The young man touches his stomach, confused, as it seemed like some kind of magic had pushed his body with a palm strike. But suddenly another attack begins, and this time Kubo says it's best to dodge as quickly as possible. Xiaoxiu understands but admits he'd rather block it to test his overall strength. We then see the pressure approaching. It crashes into the wall, causing a small explosion. Our young hero is shocked by the sheer destruction and thanks God for choosing to dodge. The old man is surprised that the boy managed to dodge his attack, which now becomes a serious problem. But it doesn't matter, since his companion currently has very little time left to live. This man didn't expect Kui to break her limits on this mission, and it could shake the entire martial arts world, because she is likely the youngest person ever to reach the peak of rank B and has a great future ahead. However, this happened during a mission, and if the energy in her body starts to leak, the bracelet will kill her. The bearded man can't let that happen and will do whatever it takes to protect her. Our protagonist wipes his mouth, saying the man is strong, but they should start fighting for real now. But Kubo quickly warns that his energy is rising exponentially, and it's important to mention that his body might explode because of it, leaving the boy frightened. The old man with his massive forehead asks if the protagonist came there to save that girl, and if so, then he should hurry, because he won't stop him. The boy is surprised by this. After all, it's almost like he's admitting defeat. Upon hearing that, the old man tenses up in the situation. Our protagonist thinks that the girl is very dangerous and now finds herself in a vulnerable situation, and thus concludes that the man seems to be sparing his life. The old man thinks this arrogant boy is being very foolish and declares that he is a member of the Baiwan Martial Alliance, so he cannot accept defeat. Xiaoxiu thinks he should avoid fights, but if enemies just show up behind him, it'll be a problem, so he'll accept having a fair fight. He then says he's going to throw some bricks at him from a distance while making sure to defend himself above all else. Hearing this, the man turns pale, wondering if the kid is making some kind of joke in such an alarming situation. In that brief moment of distraction, the girl's energy begins to leak and she starts screaming in pain, causing her uncle to panic. The old man quickly stabilizes her and declares he won't accept defeat, but swears on his word that he won't take any further action. Then he pulls something out from inside his jacket. He says it's a token from the Baiwan Martial Alliance, a truly precious coin to them. Our protagonist watches cautiously from a safe distance, and so we see a pact being made, and he, as Seitong, promises that he will no longer fight Xiaoxiu under any circumstance. He immediately thinks that the mission and the rewards no longer matter. What matters now is saving his companion's life at this exact moment. With that done, the old man shouts, asking what the protagonist is doing right now. To which the excited young man says that even if it's a pact with a respected person, he's recording this to celebrate. The old man states she doesn't have much time left and urges him to focus, yelling for him to stop recording immediately. Our protagonist wonders if this has any kind of value and whether it can be sold for money, but then notices the elder coughing up ketchup. He then says his goodbyes, saying he's off on his own path and hopes they take care of themselves. The bearded man comments that this younger generation is getting scarier by the day. We then see the upper floors of the building. The rich man asks if something has happened, since Chumushan finally stepped away from the window. The long-haired man reveals that the entire assassin legion has just been completely annihilated. The boy is surprised and calls out to his uncle, who says the plan has changed and they need to get out of there immediately. However, the man doesn't want to. He wants to settle his business with Exeguken as quickly as possible. But the ventriloquist says there's someone else he'd love to eliminate right now. The spoiled brat quickly asks who is capable of doing all this, and is told that the intruder was more dangerous than they imagined, so they must leave now. After all, an abandoned plan doesn't change their top priority, which is still protecting the master. However, the boy says he's not leaving and offers to pay triple if the man helps him finish the job. But the puppet suddenly stares at him with irritation and curses him, saying he doesn't care about money more than anything else. Immediately, the old man steps in to protect the boy from the incoming strike. The mohawked man is completely stunned by this, not understanding what's going on. But the puppet simply lands on his master's shoulder without hesitation, and both of them leave a light chuckle escaping from the one who threw the punch. Soon we hear the old man say that this person is extremely dangerous, and they shouldn't mess with him because he's incredibly powerful and a member of the 6 evil spirits. Meanwhile, we shift the top of the building. Someone says they must leave as soon as possible since the mission is over. The girl asks why it was so short, to which the reply is that they need to retreat. The blonde asks if this has something to do with her little sister Kui, but is told that it can't be explained right now. They'll find out next time. But suddenly, we see a shadow pass over her face. Her hair flies up into the sky, blocking the sun. And with her hand on the ground, the girl can only remain unconscious while the man tries to wake her up. We then see a newcomer grab the microphone from the listening device and begin speaking to the old man, who is left uncertain. He then asks in a serious tone, "Who is this person?" Meanwhile, we see our protagonist running, asking if there are only 2 enemies left, to which the answer is that there were, until one of them just vanished. The young man is surprised by this and wonders if there's only one enemy left to defeat in order to save his friend. And he quickly receives confirmation from the long-haired man, who says that's right, he's the last one remaining. Our protagonist watches him cautiously, and then that man lands on the ground ready to face him. And so he introduces himself as Chumu Shan, saying it's an honor to meet him. Jiaxiu quickly becomes confused since this person's strength is much lower than he expected. According to Kubo, 7 combat power points is the maximum he has. Our protagonist asks if his opponent is really just a normal person, and it's said that his health is below that of a high school student. However, the internal structure of the puppet contains a mid-grade gem inside. The long-haired man quickly points to his head, saying he must have already noticed that he's as fragile as an eggshell. However, this guy can compensate for that with a few simple steps. Watching him, our protagonist narrows his eyes slightly in confusion. And with his special vision, he can see that the man is boosting some of his stats and covering up his weaknesses at that moment. Being an ordinary person, the hero wonders what exactly is being used there. But quickly, with a leap, Chumu explains that in order to gain some strengths, he needs to get rid of his weaknesses. He then throws a punch, which our protagonist redirects while preparing his own. He charges forward, saying he'd better block the next attack. But with terrifying agility, a man throws something in his direction. Our protagonist watches it, wondering what it is, until an explosion suddenly goes off right in the middle of his body. Seeing that, the smug guy says he's disappointed that he gave up on the fun so early. His puppet agrees but tells him to pay attention. Our protagonist states that these attacks are unfair, but luckily he managed to pull his shovel just in time. However, the weapon ended up damaged and he says the enemy will pay for that. The man thinks he doesn't understand this technique, while the puppet says enough with the warm-up already. Quickly, the long-haired one uses his seal again and says he must have understood by now that his body is weaker than a normal human's. However, that's his only difference. He knows a few tricks. Then breathing out smoke, he claims that should be enough. They can consider themselves rivals made by heaven and earth, since the only strength of our protagonist is his overwhelming brute force along with a stupidly tough body, but he has no martial arts or sponsor, compared to him who has a weak body but uses ninjutsu runes and even puppets, pure technique. Yukaseki's facing an opponent who uses only his body and thinks his raw power is superior to technique. He then hears the answer from our protagonist, who says he only came here to save his friend. Immediately, the puppet and his master charge for the boy again. They quickly launch an explosion, which our protagonist manages to dodge by throwing himself backward. As he starts to say something, he's cut off when the puppet comes from behind. In a moment of pure desperation, he swears he'll never forget this weird creature pretending to be an inanimate object. Then we see the long-haired guy jumping toward him while using the Curse Water Evil Ghost technique. But his fist ends up being caught by our protagonist. He throws it aside while closing the distance, and informs him that saying the names of your techniques doesn't make them any stronger before they're finished. Terror appears on the face of this guy being confronted, because a ridiculously powerful punch is then fired directly into his stomach in an instant. He slides across the ground and falls several meters away. Our protagonist sighs and fans his shirt for a moment. He's worried, after all, this guy is just a normal human, so he probably shouldn't have used his full brute strength. But lying on the ground, the man says letting his enemy worry is a shame, and then asks Xiao Shan what he thinks. Our protagonist quickly wonders if that wasn't just a puppet in the end, since it's talking like that. We then see the puppet's head rotate back to face him. It says he shouldn't worry about it. Our protagonist is so shocked that his skin turns pale for a long moment. This guy hadn't thought a single punch would completely break his defense rune. But now he just needs to put another one in and make sure to dodge, because if he gets careless, he'll suffer serious losses. Hijaxiu quickly states that he has no interest in these idiotic explanations, since he's going to catch him and finish him off as fast as possible. However, Chumu informs him that he should be paying more attention to the parts of his body. The puppet declares that his companion is not just someone slow and lacking tactics in his actions. As he looks at his arm, the protagonist wonders when that thing even got there in the first place. He quickly asks how to remove this untouchable thing from himself, and suddenly, surprise takes over. After all, the limb that was previously light now feels incredibly heavy. The long-haired man says it's natural, since that spell makes the gravity in a targeted area 18 times stronger. On his knees, Xiaoxiu can only tense up under the intense discomfort. As the enemy advances, he announces that he's going to show him what real despair feels like, and then calls for Xiao Shan. The puppet immediately jumps in the same direction to support his master. This makes Xiaoxiu grit his teeth at how alarming the situation is. Another explosion is launched at our protagonist, who deflects it with his palm against the ground. The puppet quickly follows up with a single wind slash aimed in his direction. Our protagonist's instincts scream at him in that moment, and so he barely manages to dodge that incoming strike. He quickly closes the distance, asking if that's supposed to be his wind blade. However, compared to the last fighter he faced, this one doesn't amount to much. We then see the long-haired man with his hands together, chanting something. Our protagonist takes advantage of that moment and rushes at him at full speed. He punches, hitting the wall and shattering it completely as the other dodges. He then asks how he isn't being affected by the gravity spell. Our protagonist realizes this too and looks at his own arm, which is still under the spell. He decides that having his arm weigh 18 times more is actually beneficial since it boosts his attack power. And so he shouts at the idiot to start using his magic properly. Otherwise, he might as well give up on living. The good-looking man quickly snaps back, asking how he dares to underestimate him so arrogantly. He presses his pressure points and declares that he'll deliver a painful death just as wished. Then he uses a technique called Mercy of the Evil Demons. His skin turns bluish and an aura pours from his body. His hair, once black, begins to turn snow white. Our protagonist is shocked by what's unfolding right in front of him. The man's entire expression has changed from before and now looks completely different to Xiaoxiu. He declares that anyone who sees him in this form must die as quickly as possible. He then teleports, calling upon his Shukuchi. We see our protagonist startled as his instincts flare. But before he can block, a punch flies straight into his face at an extreme speed. He falls backward, thinking it was way too fast and heavy to keep up with. Behind him, the puppet is already in position, launching a missile at him while yelling for him to die. Our boy manages to dodge it and says he needs more space to think and act. But his opponent suddenly appears behind him again, as if teleporting once more. The boy tries to turn and punch him, but the enemy's hand is faster, hitting him in the stomach. He's then pushed backward with terrifying force, accompanied by a sonic boom. With the puppet's string wrapped around his finger, the man asks if he can really withstand a point-blank strike from his companion. Our protagonist quickly yells that he was just joking with him at that moment, because compared to his own speed, that puppet moves like a slug after all. And so we see the puppet's cavity shatter from the boy's punch. The spellcaster is stunned, mentally asking how that's even possible, visible panic spreading across his face. Xiaoxiu says that his Shukuchi is much slower than his current speed, which is a real embarrassment. The man yells that it can't be true and accuses him of lying, though internally he wonders what the hell happened. The speed with which the enemy moved was more than 10 times faster than his puppet, which means he's hiding something. And the hero confirms that in his mind, he had to use his own teleportation just for this situation. Both of them are now thinking they need to find a way to eliminate this enemy as fast as possible. We then return to the rich kid, who screams that he can't leave. He calls out for his uncle, saying that he knows why he's here, because the young master of the Yan family can't show weakness in front of the others. But the old man's only job is to keep him safe. This guy admits that he finally has a chance to reverse the outcome that has haunted him for so long. And even if the odds are low, he's going to bet everything he has. After all, in tears, he's already lost everything, and this could be his shot to climb back to the top. So the old man vows to do his best to keep him safe, no matter what happens. We return to the fight, where both of them land powerful hits at the same time. Now the two are much farther apart from each other. Irritated, the white-haired guy says they'll see how long he can last with 5 gravity talismans. And our protagonist, smiling, asks if he really thinks those cheap tricks can stop him. But the guy just laughs, asking if he has any idea how much those things are worth. Xiaoxiu says he was about to ask that, since it looks like he's hiding something. The guy ends up saying that each one is worth an average of 5 million on the black market. And in total, more than 130 million were spent on this war, where the one who burns the most wins. Our protagonist immediately asks if he's trying to beg for mercy, thinking he's just stalling him. The guy laughs in response, saying it's the opposite. This battle is special. He'd burn 1 billion just to kill our protagonist and would spend even more now for that. After all, the secrets of his body are worth it, and that's the difference between him and the Wuda Li officers. Our protagonist says that now he understands. There must be water where this idiot's brain is supposed to be. And as he considers how the puppet is still worth a fortune even broken, Kumbo informs him that the energy seems to be emanating in a different way from inside the object. Then the man's hair turns black again as he says it's time to end this. Our protagonist quickly recalls the things he said before and realizes he's planning to detonate the gem inside the puppet. We see the man take a cautious step backward while Kubo warns that this will completely destroy the building. With a smile, the strange man now says his goodbyes. Then he jumps backward with extreme agility, quickly activating the talisman as he falls. Irritation is clear on our protagonist's face as he realizes that first, the guy used a talisman to reduce his fall speed. He questions if the guy really plans to go through with it and sees it as a dishonor to their fight. But the long-haired man already knows what he's going to do, The next step is detonation. Sure, there will be some destructive shockwaves as a result, but everything's under control as he activates the talisman. However, as he finishes chanting, nothing happens. Confused, he looks up, wondering why, only to see something. It's our protagonist, who just jumped, yelling for him to wait. The sorcerer asks if by any chance the other guy is some kind of lunatic after all. Blinded by rage, the boy says he must be some kind of genocidal maniac trying to kill everyone in the building and escape like nothing happened. That's why he changed his mind and decided to catch him mid-air, so there's no need to play innocent anymore. The long-haired man then screams that he wants to surrender and should be let go. But our protagonist is holding 5 gravity-increasing talismans, making everything more dangerous as he declares he'll kill him. The man says he must have lost his mind. He's jumping with him to their deaths. Screaming, the man declares that he is the strongest among the families hidden under the heavens, practically nobility, so how dare he leap to death with him. Our protagonist says he doesn't give a damn about his family or whatever, but he's right about one thing: they're not dying together. The ground approaches at terrifying speed. The man realizes it just as Xiaoxiu releases his body. We hear something crash brutally against the ground. Kubo, meanwhile, fell the same way but bounced a few times. Our boy climbs out of it, saying he wouldn't want to follow him to death. And of course, he made sure to collect the battle rewards anyway. That strange spell also faded from his body, and Kubo informs him that his enemy's breathing quickly disappeared. The boy looks ahead and wondering if he's dead or something like that, to which it's said that he gave himself away to escape quickly, surprising our protagonist, who asks where and how he managed that. But in the end, he's actually impressed that his opponent escaped and decides he doesn't have time to think about it now. He quickly tosses his jacket aside, saying he'll use his teleportation to the fullest to get back to the top of the building. He immediately manages to reach the 21st floor, where he was before the fight. He finds an empty place with a strange table. There's a wine glass and a bottle hiding someone. Our protagonist wonders if everyone left, but then hears a creaking sound to the side. It's one of the boy's former enemies, now trembling and begging to be spared. But the boy doesn't care anymore and demands to know where Shen Yao is. Completely terrified, the broken man points to the side with a shaking hand. There we see a space with iron bars holding her captive. The boy quickly opens it, calling for his friend. And there she is, completely gagged and tied to a chair. He shouts her name as he approaches. He tells her not to be afraid, that he's going to take care of everything now. But the girl screams for him to get out of there immediately and leave her behind. It's a trap. Suddenly, someone appears and closes the door. It's the rich man, who says they finally met and asks if there's still time to tell the story. Right away, the protagonist recognizes him as Yan Lu because of the prosthetic on his hand. On the other hand, the girl unexpectedly screams for him to leave immediately. There's a bomb beneath her that will explode as soon as she moves. The boy quickly ducks down and tells her not to be scared. This one doesn't seem as big as the one they found earlier that day. But when he takes a closer look, he realizes there are only 2 seconds left until detonation. The girl screams for the protagonist to leave her and get out of there now. But the boy declares that he's going to save her, pulling out the kunai he had acquired recently. With fast and precise cuts, he manages to remove the bomb. He then covers it with his energy, assuming he still has time to store it in the cube space. As the countdown hits 0, he immediately places it in the cube. We hear the long tone of the bomb, which finally stops. The boy stands frozen for a long moment watching it, and assumes that he succeeded after all, which moves the girl to tears. Our protagonist wipes her tears, telling her not to cry because everything's fine. But something interrupts them. The device ended up exploding inside the cube. This causes him to instantly cough up a heavy stream of blood. His friend grabs him and calls out his name at that exact moment. The boy, however, is paralyzed, his skin already cold. She hugs him with all of her strength as he shows signs of nearly passing out. At that moment, our protagonist begs her not to cry but admits he can't move a single muscle. Unexpectedly, the second gem ends up evaporating the same way, and that's a little frustrating for him. He hears Horadric's voice, but he can't understand what's being said. He wonders what's going on as he turns his head forward, eyes wide, trying to understand what's happening to his companion. But outside, a weapon is being aimed directly at them. He asks what's going on and why it hasn't exploded yet, but says he won't let this continue. Then declares that the protagonist must die here and now. The girl quickly realizes what's happening. But before anything else, a shot is finally fired from the weapon. We see the ketchup flying instantly, and the girl puts herself in front of the protagonist to protect him. Quickly, the old man rushes in, saying a dangerous person just approached, so they must leave. And in the blink of an eye, the 2 of them vanish from that place. Our boy finally realizes that he's able to move again after all of it. He tries calling for his friend, who now speaks with a weak but relieved voice. Blood can be seen dripping from her wound in her abdomen. Our protagonist quickly calls her name, visible worry on his lips. He holds her, telling her not to worry. She just needs to keep talking to him. He'll take her to a hospital immediately, because their story has just begun and it cannot end in a way like that. But suddenly, someone appears, asking if he is Wang Xiaoxiu. Our protagonist immediately tells him to get out of his way if he doesn't want to suffer. But the teenager demands that he put the girl down right now. Trembling, the boy says he won't allow anyone to hurt her again. But suddenly, that figure vanishes all at once. He knocks our protagonist to the ground with extreme force. While holding the girl, he says he's a complete idiot for thinking about taking her to the hospital, as she would die on the way. But the boy doesn't care about that. He doesn't want anyone else touching the one he loves so much. Then the boy says that all of this happened because of him, and that's why he'll try his best to help her no matter what. Still trembling, our protagonist asks who he is and why he's taking her away. But the guy says he has no right to know since the first time they met, he proved to be a complete failure. And if he really wants to see her again, he'll have to be 100 times stronger than he is now. Let the wind itself, his presence vanishes from that place. Completely in disbelief, the boy can only curse at the wind, telling it not to leave. And in tears, he begs not to take his Shen Yao. In the rain that began to fall right after that, he had never felt like this before. With no help of any kind, his presence became almost like a ghost. At that moment, the raindrops fell harder than ever. And amidst all of it, there was a clear sadness and monotony surrounding those days. After entering Kubo's space again, he noticed that everything there had been reduced to ashes, except for his flying knife and the piece of metal, which remained intact. His body recovered, and all of his scars disappeared quickly. His teleportation and micro-radiation vision remained the same. The only difference was that he was feeling unimaginable pain. After all, his dear friend Heradric now would make a sound after the explosion. He didn't know how the officials explained the incident. However, it was clear from the looks on everyone's faces that there was deep emotion. That only made him feel even sadder as he stared at Shen You's fake funeral. He couldn't even begin to understand how absurd it all was in the end. And far away from him, a woman with open legs waited in the rain. Her presence was as mysterious as her appearance, which seemed unusual. She calls out for Wang Jiaxiu, third year, class 7. Our protagonist walks past her, while she says she wants to talk to him. And so she says she can only apologize because she doesn't have much time. But the woman reveals she's connected to the Yanlu incident. Our protagonist asks how she even knows about that person. Then the woman asks if they should sit down and talk. They quickly arrive at a local cafe. The place is calm with few visitors. But the boy's mind was wandering, thinking about how to get stronger, and especially how to get his beloved back. But before that, he must get his revenge, and so he asks why she's investigating him. The woman says he's making her sound like a monster, since, to be precise, she's stopping others from getting to him. That makes him curious and prompts him to ask what she means. She says that superpowers and mutants are things every specialized country sends agents to deal with in some way. She asks if he has any idea what would happen if those agencies came after him. Does he think they'll use him as an experiment, fill his body with questions and answers, or even the absurd idea of opening a school for monsters for him? Those are just comic book ideas and similar nonsense, because discovering humans with uncontrollable powers is a huge risk. What they really do is eliminate them as quickly as possible, with no chance of survival. This is basically the Dark Forest theory. Our protagonist asks why she won't just get straight to the point. She then says he doesn't seem to suspect why he's being protected, since his sister is doing everything to cover for him. But our protagonist knows full well that's a lie coming from her. After all, the three people standing behind them are now holding their weapons. Realizing the situation, the woman quickly becomes alarmed. And so she begins moving her hands downward toward her weapon. But our protagonist commands her to stop right there. After all, if she draws her weapon, he'll make sure to put an end to her. She instantly tenses up and calls his attention again. The men around them start moving now, because they can feel the danger behind the protagonist's words. If she can provide information, he doesn't mind continuing the conversation. After all, he just doesn't like being disturbed. She then reveals her name is Mu Yukin, head of criminal investigation. This makes her cover her chest, clearly embarrassed. The man in the suit quickly steps forward, questioning whether it's really safe to talk with someone of that caliber. The cafe owner promptly asks if there's anything he can help with, as the situation seems to be escalating. But he's quickly silenced by a look from the badge of the man standing in that moment. The woman asks if he doesn't believe what she's saying. Our boy knows very well it's true, so he assumes there must be some kind of order keeping them in place and asks what exactly is being proposed. She gets annoyed and promptly says she'll be honest. She's helping him only for the sake of recycling. The boy immediately understands that this is clearly about reusing his services. To which she responds that it's similar. After all, 90% of those who awaken end up being annihilated, and she just wants to play a give-and-take game. Hiraxiu feels offended, since it sounds like she's treating him like trash, and says only a corpse can be considered that. Akira then asks if the two people behind him are also being recycled. After all, their power barely reaches rank C. Both are startled by that statement, realizing how well the protagonist understands the situation. And the woman admits that she underestimated him more than she expected. The protagonist says she failed badly in the end and asks what she wants to bargain. The man still believes this kid is already beyond Class B, making him someone far out of their league. The woman says she'll help him find Yanlu, and in exchange, he'll need to complete 3 missions. But the boy thinks that's completely unfair. He has a lot more he wants to learn and won't risk his life for her. Surprisingly, the woman agrees to that immediately. This catches the boy off guard and he stays silent for a long moment. It's revealed that his first task is simply to protect someone. Hearing that, Shiaxi replies that he doesn't have time to be a bodyguard. He's a student and needs to return to school since he's been away for too long. But she tells him not to worry, it's only for 1 day and he'll receive a 50,000 cash reward along with the information he wants. Realizing that, the boy promptly asks if she can explain the reasoning behind this objective. She slides a folder toward him, saying it contains the information and that it won't be as dangerous as he might think. He only needs to protect the client at a private banquet, and for someone who managed to fight a rank B, he'll likely do just fine in that setting. Our protagonist asks if she thinks he's an idiot and questions why he should trust her. The woman begins to stand, calling him a brat, and says she's keeping him safe, which already proves her credibility. He can come back anytime and tell him when he's made up his mind, and she leaves a small card, explaining that he'll need to go through a full evaluation beforehand. The boy quickly grabs the paper and examines it calmly. We then shift to the outside, where a car is already driving through the streets. The man asks what she's doing. After all, they're negotiating with someone extremely dangerous. But the woman replies that there's an old saying about people being measured by different weights and values that can always go up or down. Right now, all she's doing is gambling, and this boy is likely useful since he awakened less than a month ago and already survived someone from Class B. When something like this happens, it's called transcendence, and she felt the chance to gain something. It's a high-risk gamble, but one that brings major rewards. The man feels things are getting more and more out of control, but she says there's no need to worry. Soon, something unexpected appears on top of the car. And as we get closer, we can clearly see it's the queue where our protagonist is located. He assumes they're being way too greedy, thinking he's easily controlled in the end. Then the man questions whether he's planning to exchange information with that kid, since the major families haven't mentioned anything about it, and small groups like theirs can afford to hand something over recklessly, as it could be disastrous. The woman quickly says he's smart, but sometimes gets confused. That kid doesn't know much and will be satisfied with a Class D piece of information at most. The man quickly gives a nervous smile, realizing she was really confident about negotiating terms with the boy. Hearing that, our protagonist thinks it was indeed a great idea to come to the car to eavesdrop on them. And with fire in his eyes, he decides he won't fall easily for that kind of smooth talk they're trying to feed him. Soon, his item vanishes from on top of the car all at once. It then reappears above a bridge as he says that taking advantage of this group will definitely be worth it. After all, he needs information. Then we see the next day with the sky clearer than ever. He returned to his class after a long time just to ease his mother's worries. His academic performance was never bad, but now he's getting smarter thanks to the points he earned in mental strength, and that allows him to do many things at this point. Soon the teacher quickly asks why he's daydreaming and tells him to solve the equation, to which our protagonist promptly stands up and explains in detail how to solve the formula without any difficulty. The teacher watches with remarkable calmness, and showing clear surprise, says that he may sit down again. Sometime later, our protagonist wonders if this place is actually a trail leading to an evaluation site. Covering his eyes, he looks up again, soon spotting a mansion and thinking he's arrived at the place. And he remembers how the woman said that this evaluation was important to start his special mission. But he ends up assuming it must be tough for someone to live there and wonders what kind of thing is about to happen. Then we see a woman in front, asking if he came to take the test. The boy pulls out his card and wonders what she's saying, realizing that the lady welcomes him to the Boer mansion and tells him to follow her right away. Our boy observes everything with extreme caution and thinks this place seems full of people. It's said that some of the candidates are already preparing inside, to which our protagonist thanks her for the information. The doors soon open before him. We see a place filled with many different kinds of people in a way. Some look like ninjas from the Leaf Village, while others are just weird old guys. However, most of them don't really seem like much in the end. Heradric had stopped speaking, so he couldn't be sure of these people's combat level, but most of them seem weak. Suddenly someone approaches, placing a hand on the protagonist's shoulder, and then says his ears are pretty impressive and asks if he dares to repeat what he was saying. Our protagonist, being a clear scoundrel, ends up apologizing in a rather casual way. Suddenly someone draws everyone's attention, saying they're sorry for making them wait. We see everyone turning their attention to where the voice is coming from. The man says he's the host of this private bodyguard test and that they were recommended and even had their backgrounds checked. But this job is a very precise profession, and so they'll be tested properly on their strengths and weaknesses in a fully suitable exam. It's important to point out that there can't be any conflicts between the participants, as that would only prove they have no discipline for the job. Then the bald guy lets go of our protagonist, saying he's really lucky, to which the boy replies with a slight chuckle. The man promptly says that he'll need 3 abilities: to recognize, to react, and to fight, and all of that will be evaluated. Everyone pays close attention as it feels like there's some kind of trick to it. Our protagonist knows it too, since it all seems way too easy. After all, a salary of 50,000 is quite appealing. So the man gets ready to open the doors, telling them to follow him. Everyone immediately complies, filled with unwavering determination. And then we see the figure of a casino appearing before our eyes. The women and the croupiers are already prepared to begin the test. Those participants wonder what is going on, since it all seems rather bold. The man explains that each person will receive 5 chips and will play in the casino. The rule is the simplest of all. To pass the test, they must accumulate a total of 10 chips, and as soon as 30 people succeed, the test will end. All the men think it's strange, yet some feel confident since they've done this most of their lives. Our protagonist also finds it odd, but figures it's better to forget it for now. Soon, a man approaches him saying that betting multiple chips without a strategy is completely unacceptable. The roulette wheels and slot machines will be quickly eliminated. After all, they are being heavily manipulated. So participating in dice games is much safer for everyone. But that's just how it appears from his perspective. Our protagonist wonders if this man is talking to himself or to him. Soon we see that several people are already losing everything at once, which leaves them utterly frustrated. This man explains that everything is being monitored in the end and they need to find a way to win. That's why he calls out to the protagonist and asks what he plans to do. But as soon as he looks back, he realizes the other man disappeared in the middle of the explanation. And so we see that the blonde man is actually a professional con artist of the 7th stage, 35 years old, who now believes he'll have to find another target. Our protagonist thinks he won't have too much trouble, since with his micro-radiation ability he won't struggle to win. Even the staff members are blatantly cheating, just as he's witnessing. The machines and all the equipment are being completely altered from his point of view. In the end, his whole room is full of cheaters, doing their best to make him lose. Soon we see that someone has won again, which is actually quite impressive. Our protagonist thinks that there is indeed a way to come out ahead in all this, because in this identification house, the content of the test is nothing more than gambling. The man suddenly yells, asking how this is possible. Since he lost 3 times in a row in every round, he believes the woman is cheating. The waiter then asks if he has any evidence, and he replies that he's been gambling for over 30 years, which should be enough. The woman then says they can go speak to the manager and discuss any issue he's having. Everyone there gets irritated by that. After all, if they were strong enough, they'd be able to take their chips back. Our protagonist watches silently for a long moment, until his attention turns to a shout from several people who are amazed. After all, someone at table 35 has already won more than 10 times in a row. This man with hair like Josu Kagashikata assumes they probably don't even know how it really works. Since there are no restrictions on exchanging or handing over chips, he can win as much as he wants because he'll be able to sell them later. Everyone notices the situation and quickly rush toward the games to try to win more. Suddenly, one of the men bumps into a woman and asks how she can be so weak and why she doesn't just go home and rest. Our protagonist wonders if all this is really okay in the end. But he thinks the nature of this identification is extremely fair. After all, the speed of one's eyes, hearing, and comprehension is being trained and evaluated. Since with this kind of electronic technology, they can guarantee all of that. Even his charm and style of deception are being evaluated, which means that the more extraordinary your talent, the more likely you are to pass. Quickly, we see another person has just completed the test, and so the host congratulates the 3rd candidate to pass the challenge. We then see that the man from earlier has just lost all of his chips at once and wonders what happened. Our protagonist chuckles lightly, saying he should start moving faster. Then we see one of the girls already prepared to play at that very moment. The young man is impressed that there's a game like this happening now in that location. He's told that he must choose one of the cups where a gold coin is hidden. First, she needs to select in which of the containers the object will be, and then she will shuffle them at an extremely fast speed. Once that's done, everyone can make their choice. Then, with a bit of charm, she asks them to place their bets. The men are completely flustered by her beauty and end up placing their bets recklessly. Our protagonist thinks he's lucky he didn't have to use his micro-radiation vision since he saw everything clearly. One person bet on the left cup, 4 on the middle one, and 2 on the third. Then she asks if anyone wants to raise the bet before revealing it. At that moment, our protagonist steps in and throws all of his coins onto the table. The men are impressed by the size and boldness of the protagonist's bet, as he seems to be someone inexperienced in the end. They ask which cup he wants to bet on, to which our protagonist says it won't be any of the containers. He's betting on her right hand. Everyone gets irritated and asks if he's looking to cause trouble or what. The woman points her finger and asks if that's really what he's saying in the end. Our protagonist promptly states that she changed the location of the coin and bets everything that's right along the line of her bust. The girl becomes embarrassed, saying that's extremely inappropriate of him. All the men grow angry, asking if he really wants to stir up trouble there, since they won't wait any longer. Our protagonist quickly tells her to stop being an idiot and just carry on with the game. The girl looks extremely sad about that, until their sly, cat-like smile suddenly appears. She then pulls the coin out from within her meat melons. She congratulates him for doubling his chips all at once. Everyone there is shocked, realizing they lost everything to the protagonist. The chips are pushed toward our boy. He takes them and walks away, thanking them all while they question if that was even possible. The old men yell that it must have been some kind of cheating scheme and demand their chips back. The woman quickly approaches, saying she has no right to return the chips, but they can appeal to the manager and try to get their demands met. She asks to be followed, and the men keep shouting that they want proper compensation for what happened. Several say they'll go with her, while one old man looks worried. His shirt even changes color from fear, until the woman asks if he's not coming along, to which he says there's no me for that. Our protagonist watches it all from the corner of his eye for a while, and remembers that the first guy who went along never came back, which means he was already removed. It's then announced that the 9th participant has completed the first stage, and he's excited to see what comes next. A woman soon congratulates him and tells him to follow her. The protagonist obeys, and it's said he'll be taken to a resting area. The boy quickly arrives at the ruin and is surprised by its modern architecture. Several people can be seen seated, one glancing sideways, while another hides under a cap. In the end, there's no one there with particularly high combat proficiency, and it's impressive that in such a vast world, some still surpass human limits. Half an hour later, all 30 participants have completed the first stage. A man stands before them, saying they've now reached the second test. Those who didn't make it are all trash, and now a real formal trial will begin. As a bodyguard, one must face real battles that often aren't fair, and anyone unprepared won't survive. One side may propose a game that favors them, and the other may accept or refuse. But of course, refusing is basically the same as losing. It's then shown that the other party may also issue a dual challenge, which the enemy is obligated to accept. However, it's unpredictable to know in which areas your opponent is stronger than you. And to keep things fair, they will have examiners judging them, so a brief explanation will be given. First, we have Alan Long, a Class C individual, Ben Helsing, the old man from Category D, and Little Jasmine, who is also at the same level as the previous elder. The men get excited about this, since it's a real fair fight to determine their strengths. One of them asks what happens if both sides refuse to fight, to which an instructor says he doesn't need to worry about that, because the judges will do whatever it takes to prevent any kind of cheating in this competition, since they have enough qualifications to guarantee the efficiency and fairness of the fights during the tournament. He then asks if there are any other questions, to which the answer is no. Soon the host says that if everyone understands, then they can look for competitors, and if they can't find one, they may even ask the judges. The man says he doesn't need anything like that, since he'll easily find a very weak opponent. He then approaches our protagonist and says he's going to challenge him. The boy is surprised by that, since he is many times stronger than this supposed opponent. But soon the mountain arrives at his side and says that the protagonist is his opponent, and then questions how he even managed to pass the initial test, since he seems to have had a lot of luck. To which the protagonist replies that he's more curious about how the other passed the test, since it seemed to require initial intelligence. Then the bald man says it's too late for small talk and that he's going to challenge him, so he better be ready. In the end, he shouldn't think he's clever, because he can already see through our protagonist. Soon the list of competitors will be displayed on the screen, and they need to pay attention to their positions. Everyone watches the monitor while someone named Marcos is called up at that moment. They all wonder who this crazy guy is, and someone says he might actually be quite strong after all. Then the strongest instructor asks everyone to be quiet. After all, they've studied each one of them and need to conduct a live evaluation of 7 individuals. To put it simply, some of them use martial arts and may be classified at higher levels, so they need to be examined face to face. The first one called is Kiyoshi, which immediately gets everyone staring at each other. This person walks in with long strides. He's a samurai-like figure who demands to know how the man dares to doubt his strength, saying he will condemn him. But the man questions the validity of his martial arts in kendo, judo, and karate, to which this stranger replies that he's just a young man who doesn't yet understand how powerful someone can become with the right training. Quickly, the older man tosses the papers behind him, saying they need to conduct a pretest to avoid unnecessary casualties. The samurai sees that as a disgrace, feeling that his techniques and endurance are being underestimated. The man then quickly says that the test is quite simple. He must attack using one of his hands, perform 10 moves in total, and if he withstands them, he'll pass the pretest. This Japanese-speaking man asks what he means. His clan has only deadly techniques, and so he will overcome him and cleanse his sins. He then raises his hand with the wooden sword and commands, "Die." Quickly, the wooden blade lunges at him in a single movement. However, it is pierced by the administrator, who easily breaks it. And then he closes his fist with tremendous force. He strikes the opponent's face directly in front of him. The participant is thrown violently far away. Everyone sees that someone of Class C is truly beyond human, and they wonder why the Japanese man did such a thing without hesitation. The man says he's even worse than expected, and for the safety of everyone, he should be removed from the next exam. Everyone starts to get nervous after that, since the judgment is harsher than they imagined. Some immediately apologize and say they can no longer participate in the test. This senior affirms that what happened was clean and honest, and he's proud of those who recognize their own weakness. And so the next one is called someone with a certain level of martial arts. The man promptly introduces himself as an elder, master of his family and clan. He is quickly told to demonstrate his skills and how he would use them. The bald man complies with great agility. Our protagonist watches, thinking his body looks ordinary, but the fluctuation of his energy is incredible. We then see the judge staring at him for a long moment, until he says that it's enough to make an evaluation. The senior states that his strength is beyond rank D, and so he has no problem participating in the challenge. Our protagonist thinks that the test just performed was very accurate. Then next up is Wang Xiaoxiu, who was asked to come forward. The boy is surprised by that, as he didn't know he would be taking the same exam. The instructor quickly becomes impressed that he is the one in question, to which our boy shows no surprise at all and simply confirms the statement. The document said that he participated in a combat mission alongside several Class B warriors, and yet he seems to have no special cultivation. Our boy, in a relaxed manner, says that's basically it, while thinking that those documents were probably prepared by Mu Yuxi. Everyone quickly starts asking who that person even is. In the end, maybe the information really is legit. But the man questions whether he truly did that, since he looks so weak and might have barely escaped the fight seriously injured. And because of that, there will be a test to verify his strength to avoid him getting hurt too badly during the challenges ahead. Our protagonist calmly asks what his objective is in all this, as he's curious. The man promptly explains that he's afraid he won't be strong enough in hand-to-hand combat, so he's going to suggest something simpler. This musclehead will stand still while the protagonist can throw multiple punches at him, and during that, his strength level will be evaluated. Everyone watches, thinking that this is really a fair and especially resilient person for accepting that, which makes him even more impressive. Wang Xiaoxiu asks if he really wants him to punch him, since he might end up getting hurt in the end. Everyone starts laughing, saying the other is way too full of himself and doesn't need to worry. After all, this guy has endured many injuries in the past, but no one has been able to land a new one on him lately. Still, the protagonist is concerned and with a red face asks if it won't be too much for the guy's body to handle. Everyone there bursts out laughing since he seems to be overloaded with confidence. With an extremely friendly smile, the man says to go ahead and use all his strength at once without holding back for even a second. Our protagonist feels a bit uneasy. After all, he really does seem pretty weak. In the end, even Pablo, the crazy one with the smile, seemed a bit stronger than this instructor. The boy promptly tells him to brace himself for what's about to happen, to which he replies there's no need to worry, he's completely ready. However, we see that the punch was more than he could handle in his entire life. The other evaluators are shocked, their eyes widening to the extreme, as the man is launched an unimaginable distance, more than 30 meters away. We see all the other participants stunned and even irritated by such an extreme display of what just happened, and the once confident man is now curled up on the ground, trembling in pain. Our protagonist tries calling out to him, saying he only used a bit of his strength, and it shouldn't have been a big deal. The old man quickly calls out for Alan, begging him to get up after a hit that looked incredibly painful. The musclehead manages to understand and, coughing a few times, says he's fine. He then states that he wasn't hurt at all and admits that this participant isn't bad at all. His strength is legitimate. He says he has something to take care of and will be back soon, so they should continue the tests. We then see him leave the area all at once, only to hear the sounds of someone coughing and spitting up ketchup on the other side. The judges are completely stunned with no reaction at all, and all the participants fall silent, wearing expressions of massive disbelief. The bald guy from earlier scratches his head and says he's got more important things to do at home, so he won't be able to compete. It's said that for the rest of the competition, all his battles ended in his opponents forfeiting before a single move was made. However, he had no problem with that. After all, he was accepted successfully. Then we see everyone gathered, including even an underground fighter, a disciple of a respected sect, and even a hardcore reader of this very manga we're translating right now. Mu Exia, a Chinese member of the Kung Fu Association, the guy with hair like Josu Kagashikata, who claims to be a professional gambler, and our protagonist who doesn't seem to have anything special about him, but harbors immense strength. At this moment, the host calls everyone over, saying they want to introduce the person who will be paying them. A shadow quickly appears, saying they've been chosen to be his bodyguards. His name is Pio Jin, and he's the one who will pay their commissions, which are above anything else in the industry, so he expects their strength to be up to the task. Currently, he's not surrounded by a large number of bodyguards, but at today's party, modern weapons or anything like that are not allowed. That's why he's hiring people with superpowers and wants his life to be prioritized, and if they do a good job, they'll receive an enormous, generous bonus. Then he orders the man to begin spreading the details of everything that will take place. It is stated that they will receive 3 million in commission per person, and the money has already been transferred to their bank accounts. Our protagonist is surprised by this and asks where it is. The man is impressed by what's being said at that moment, so he decides to check and says that his agent, Miss Mu, received the payment. Our protagonist, on the other hand, is confused. He didn't even know he had an agent beside him. Then he remembers that the woman only promised him 50,000 in cash because her priority was intelligence. He's asked if he has any other questions, while he thinks he was scammed and swears he'll kill her when he gets the chance. It's quickly said that they have 6 hours before the party begins, so there's still much to be done. Several women bring out the uniforms, which must be worn immediately. The 3 judges will also attend the party and will explain the precautions to be taken. The content that follows is extremely confidential under the contract they currently hold, and the name of the banquet is Rudra, a private conference for the wealthy. There will be a total of 26 famous individuals at the location. The organizer is a mad gambler who rose to influence in the biotechnology field. The party is certainly no ordinary one, as it involves 7 events and will include an audition that Mr. Pio would like to host. That will be auction where he plans to acquire the Elder Mask. The man who hired them is obsessed with this, as it's their job to help him achieve this goal. But between the pages, our protagonist asks about something that catches his attention. It is said to be an obsidian essence, one of the final items in the auction. The boy remembers the last moments of his companion, who said something about the color black. That catches the boy's attention intensely. This might be his chance to bring his friend back. The woman informs him that he must memorize the information about the members who will attend the banquet to ensure nothing goes wrong. but soon his eyes open wide in shock, because one of the names clearly belongs to the Yan family, a man called Yan Senator. In the end, this information is incredible, as the banquet is becoming increasingly important to him. Soon, night falls over the Du mansion. Lights reflect over the water, casting glowing reflections, and we see the inside of the mansion, where many people are gathered, sipping glasses of wine. The man quickly introduces himself to them as Du Weibing, the host of the party, and asks everyone to take their seats. He says that being brief, he will now begin the festivities with a classic opening game. The name is simple: Warrior and the Golden Bell. One of the men says he's heard a lot about it and is curious to see what happens. The chubby one quickly says he hopes not to be disappointed by what comes next. Our protagonist is surprised and asks what they're talking about. He really should have read the instructions more carefully. The man snaps his fingers, saying the event will now begin, and he hopes everyone enjoys it. Suddenly, we hear the sound of gears turning in the area, and the floor suddenly opens up. It's a mechanism that our protagonist watches from above. Everything down there is dark and he can't see anything. But suddenly, several torches light up, and we see a swamp beast called Nicholas, over 6 meters long. The women are amazed, while the men are dumbfounded. But there's no need to panic. The man steps on the glass floor above the creature. It's said to be reinforced and bulletproof, ensuring no one needs to worry about the beast rising up. Everyone relaxes for a moment. A mustached man says this is a fantastic way to start the party. Another agrees, saying this feels like the climax of a spectacle, and asks if there's more to come. The millionaire says there's no need to worry. Every night will be a spectacle. Everyone should already know the game's rules, but he will explain again since it's a simple game. They could easily see a golden bell tied around the neck of the wicked beast. The warrior will be allowed to choose only one weapon to fight against the creature, and so one can win if they manage to hold onto the golden item. Of course, most people won't volunteer for that, which is why there's a good reward for whoever succeeds in the hunt. However, there's only one rule. No warrior is allowed to leave the cage without the bell. Our protagonist wonders what's going on. After all, this looks like a mass execution. This isn't some simple bodyguard job, and it's no surprise they're putting so much money into whoever can fight. The old man then states that the initial reward for this starts at 5 million. Everyone thinks that's an enormous amount of money being offered. The fat man says he trusts them, and for that reason, he'll double the amount if they demonstrate their true strength to the audience. The others get excited about that. After all, 10 million in a single night is a big deal. Our protagonist, on the other hand, thinks these degenerates are being seduced by money. Soon, we see the gong being struck, marking the beginning of the event. The man with glasses asks who will be the first to go down and face the enemy. A human wall quickly steps forward, saying he wants to go first, and the host grants it. The protagonist's teammates realize he's just a clueless rookie who doesn't understand the situation. But soon, the cage is opened and the warrior takes position. Then we hear a roar coming from the creature. The man, like a Spartan, yells for the beast to come attack him. But the crocodile remains still, without any movement. This confuses the man, who asks if maybe it's too full to attack. But suddenly, something happens and we see Ketchup flying. The enormous creature just grabbed and devoured him without any difficulty. The women are startled and scream in shock, while the billionaires can only laugh at all the hesitation during the event. The old man says he was too weak and couldn't even handle a creature like that with a single strike. What a shame. However, the boy noticed something strange. After all, that beast is moving at a terrifying speed. The host says the first challenger was killed. It was quite the performance. But he forgot to mention this is no ordinary animal. It was created using biotechnology and is an enhanced version of a crocodile with over 50% increased explosive strength. According to the rules, the price has now gone up to 7 million, and they ask if anyone wants to continue the challenge. Then the young master of the Yan family asks if his bodyguard can handle it, and it's said he may be fast, but has short reach. Because of that limitation, the man might actually do well against the creature. The blonde man quickly states that the second warrior has arrived for the challenge. He ended up choosing a long spear and throwing weapons, and they wonder if he'll succeed in this affront. The crocodile watches him from behind the bars, ready to devour him at any moment. Our protagonist is relieved. After all, he has the option of not participating in this game, but he's told he should have read the contract. Because if no one is selected, they'll be forced to go, which surprises the boy, given how strict that rule is. It's said that $3 million is a lot of money, and that's the bare minimum expected in a situation like this. Our protagonist gets instantly frustrated. He only managed to earn 50,000 because he got tricked by that woman. Soon, the cage opens all at once for them. Our protagonist observes the young master of the Yan family, who comes from a line with several members of decent strength. But something catches his attention and makes him look up. It's a man located on the upper level of the mansion. He watches him from above, seemingly noticing his presence and staring right at him. He's told not to stare. After all, that's a committee member responsible for maintaining order during the party. Our protagonist is surprised by that. He didn't expect such a thing to exist here. After that, we see a bit of commotion taking place. The creature is now roaring in pain as it's pierced by multiple spears. It's impressive to see that this warrior used his size and agility to pull off such a meticulous strategy. One of the men praises the guy for choosing such capable people. But our protagonist thinks that even if the crocodile is injured, its movements haven't been affected at all. Our protagonist once again introduces himself as Wang Xiaoqiu, an ordinary high school student. But at one point, he acquired a heraldic system by an incredibly rare chance. With it, he was able to gain immense power to pursue the girl of his dreams. But what he imagined would be a happy ending turned out to be the wrong one. He didn't get what he wanted. After all, in exchange for all of that, Xiaoqiu ended up losing the one he loved to several incidents that occurred. And so to find her again and take revenge on her killer, he had to join and complete a mission for a government woman who was willing to help him. But he didn't realize that the mission was far more important than he thought, and so we returned to the crocodile, which now seems slower after several spears were lodged in its body. Still, our protagonist thinks this challenger is going to die anyway. The man then prepares himself, saying he'll give it a quick death. He charges forward all at once with an attack he calls Spear Bloom. Walking along the wall, the warrior bids farewell to the creature beneath him. The young master of the Yan family watches and comments that he's doing a great job. However, the creature's tail suddenly strikes in his direction, hitting him and breaking his spear. The man falls to the ground from the blow, giving the creature just enough time to notice him. And then it charges forward, devouring him in one single motion with no difficulty. Everyone is shocked by what just happened before their eyes. And the crocodile immediately begins to devour the body of the man who was trying to kill it. The woman screams in despair as the scene is horrifying. But the men are paralyzed, unsure of what to say. The blonde man calms them, asking what they thought. After all, that little climax surely didn't disappoint them. Quickly calmed down, the men admit that he chose a rather bold opening performance, considering this beast is at least level C. The blonde man chuckles, saying his efforts were worth it in the end. It is then announced that the reward has just increased to 9 million, and he asks who will be the next warrior to step forward. Everyone is already prepared for any kind of intervention, just as the elder points out, but that a man named Fabian Mondi says he wants to fight, and his contractor agrees that he may go. The blonde man is impressed by that and says he has no problem accepting people like him. However, the guy with Josu Kagashikata's hairstyle steps in and says he wants to try. We can now see that a duel competition is about to begin, which is extremely entertaining for them. Our young protagonist wonders what they're talking about, while the blue-haired girl calls him an idiot. After all, if more than one warrior wants to take the challenge, then they must first battle one-on-one. That's the proper way to handle such a situation in this place. In the end, this Duba Jin may even be able to defeat the level C crocodile, but it won't be easy. However, the man says he doesn't know anything about his opponent. Then the fat man with the thin mustache cheers for his young champion, since there's a huge reward waiting for the winner. The black man tells him to win, as he'll receive a famous idol to accompany him for 3 days if he does. The man starts trembling with emotion, even crying at such kindness. But suddenly, his opponent appears behind him with an open mouth and a wicked grin. He bites into his opponent's jugular in a single motion. The man calls him insane for daring to launch a sneak attack like that. But quickly, his skin begins to wither and age due to the constant blood loss. His contractor tries to call out his name one last time. However, a security death has just occurred at that very moment, caused by the protagonist's companion. With ketchup-like stains on his lips, he wonders aloud if he should still receive a reward, since he won't be able to enjoy the rest of the party. Then the black man calls Mondi a loser and a failure. This shocks our protagonist, who watches his companion closely in that moment. He realizes that his ability to drain blood to boost his own strength for a short time is extremely impressive in the end. With that, the boy wonders if it really works that simply, since it's such a useful ability. The blonde man claps, saying it was a performance with great impact, and declares that he is qualified to face the beast. He is then asked which weapon he will choose, to which he replies not to worry and to just open the cage, since he doesn't like giving his opponent any disadvantage. And so we see the gate opening in front of him at that very moment. Everyone wonders if he's some kind of lunatic, as they're all getting a bad feeling. Both creatures lock eyes at that moment, two killers, without any form of hesitation or remorse. The man says he'll enjoy unleashing his bloodlust, since he's normally very restrained with his enemies. Everyone thinks he's a total madman who's about to die without even putting up a fight. Soon, the crocodile lunges forward all at once with its mouth wide open, letting out a roar. However, it's instantly defeated by a single strike from the vampire standing there. The protagonist is shocked, and everyone else is incredibly impressed. The delinquent-haired guy quickly wipes his hand with a smooth motion, then pulls a handkerchief from inside his previously blood-stained shirt. He proceeds to clean the bell and says he gave it a quick death, just a favor to someone at the same level as him. Our young man is impressed by the technique, as this guy's speed seems to have reached a level B, but something suddenly draws his attention inside the cage. The man with glasses promptly announces that the first warrior has successfully claimed the golden bell of the night. He's asked if he would like to receive gold, but the man says bank and digital transfers are more fitting for someone of his stature. Then the fat man who hired him raises his glass, telling everyone to toast to his warrior. Everyone claps and gets excited, since it was an incredible performance. But the black man seems irritated, having lost both money and good subordinate. Soon, the young master of the Yan family asks if there are any other interesting games they can be shown. He's told not to worry, the fun is only just beginning on this chaotic night. They're asked to wait a moment, as there's a big surprise prepared for them. He's sure no one will be able to guess what the next animal will be. The bald man says there's nothing they haven't already seen by now anyway. Our protagonist, staring into the darkness, senses a large amount of power coming from it. But the fat man with a thin mustache remains confident in his bodyguards. Everyone stares at him with their ridiculously poorly drawn faces, and the girl once again hides her face with her cap, still keeping her identity secret. Then the torches light up, revealing the beast. It's a special gift made to meet them on this very special night. A creature with the agility of a feline and the power of a bear called Tau 17, a masterpiece of biotechnology. Everyone is startled as they can feel a tangible discomfort just by looking at it. Our protagonist thinks they're all perverts, obsessed with money and chasing thrills in other people's lives. In the end, the one who tried to tie the golden bell ended up being eaten alive by this malicious creature, turning it into a legendary challenge for everyone present. Now it's clear that this beast is completely out of control. Maybe he didn't notice, but the event's organizer seems to have made a mistake, or someone else did. But more importantly, his own team seems to be preparing something at this very moment. It's announced that this opening test now has a reward of 10 million for anyone who can complete it. Then the first challenger is sent toward the beast. His name is Obo-chan. The young master of the Yen family commands him to kill it immediately for the glory of their family. His man, however, thinks this is his moment to shine. Even though he's ugly and unknown, he can gain everything by defeating this beast. His life is finally going to turn around, and all he has to do is bring down this creature. But suddenly, something grabs his attention, making him look up. The beast had leaped over him all at once with immense agility. He wonders how that's even possible. This thing looks like a cross between a cat and a lion, and yet it moves so fast. The creature quickly starts climbing the walls with incredible strength and no difficulty. All the hosts are terrified, letting out screams of despair. After all, the creature is now scratching the glass, trying to escape and attack them. But the blonde man tries to calm them down, saying they're absolutely safe. The glass is heavily reinforced. However, the sound of the creature slamming its head into the glass terrifies him, and he ends up repeating that there's no problem, though not even he believes it anymore. The man thinks the creature is ignoring him just to go after more targets, and that this is his chance. He then charges forward all at once with his sword, shouting for it to die. But suddenly, the creature dodges the attack effortlessly, causing him to strike the wall instead, ironically. The long-haired man is shocked as the beast was able to evade his blow with no difficulty at all. Then, with just a single swipe of its extremely muscular arm, it eliminates its opponent without any effort. Everyone is horrified by what is happening right in front of them. Our protagonist didn't expect that, especially since that weapon seemed to be very effective after all. But his eyes quickly widen upon realizing that the beast is smarter than expected. After all, it used its mouth to grab the weapon and now plans to wield it. The host of the party thinks this is unexpected, and everyone notices that something is about to happen. The creature then climbs up near the glass, this time with a sword in its mouth. It begins to use it to strike and slash at the glass with great force, starting to crack it. Everyone panics as the armored glass might not be able to withstand these attacks. Our protagonist believes his companion is responsible for this. After all, he made a small movement when he was down there, and he did it in such a discreet way that only the protagonist, using his spectral vision, managed to notice. It seemed to be some kind of strange powder he used, and after that, he went after the crocodile. Apparently, his companions seemed to be plotting something after all. They weren't even informed about this, let alone the gladiator deal. In the end, the protagonist realizes they're being used as cannon fodder, easily disposable. The blonde man tries to shout for the security team to come immediately as the beast is about to escape. However, he doesn't realize that the creature has already climbed up behind him. He turns around, terrified, to face his executioner in that very moment. Everyone at the party starts screaming in panic and running in all directions. The creature lunges at its creator with a terrifyingly powerful claw, but it's blocked by one of the individuals responsible for the security of the place. His body trembles under the extreme force pressing down on his arm. The blonde man tries to thank him and says he'll give him a 3% raise for this, but the man tells him to just get out immediately. Suddenly, his hand becomes covered in a green liquid. It's his technique. He cautiously brings his hand close to the beast's claw in a single motion. Sensing the danger, the creature quickly recoils, and then takes several steps back to face this new opponent who is now preventing it from killing its creator. The man realizes that the beast is now scared, and it's revealed that he is someone nearly at rank B, which is extremely powerful. The blonde man immediately tries to get him to leave and let security handle it, but he's told that would only make everything more chaotic. It seems that the party preparations weren't ready, and until everyone is present, there's no need for him to worry about security. The man with glasses then says that what really matters are the guests who are here right now. We then witness total panic taking over the place with everyone screaming as if they were in hell. However, the short and chubby man says this is actually a special show, and one of the guards orders everyone not to panic. Our protagonist thinks they've done absolutely nothing and now want to control everything. But this might be a good opportunity for him to gather some interesting things from the Yan family. He notices that all the security guards are surrounding the young master, protecting him from anything. Our protagonist watches from a distance with visible rage. He clenches his fist tightly, nearly ready to kill, until he is interrupted by a man who appears in front of him all at once. though it doesn't surprise him. Everyone is told to calm down as the 4 officials have just arrived on the scene. Kiraxu thinks that yet another problem has just shown up and he only wanted to kill a Yan family member in secret. But now there's no time left, so he grabs a wine glass and leaves. His companion quickly asks where he went, to which it's said that he simply walked in the wrong direction because he was nervous. The man smiles and says the boy is already a professional alcoholic even though he's still so young. Leaving the boy embarrassed, he gives a somewhat friendly smile. Soon the brute ends up eliminating the creature with an extremely powerful punch. The woman says there's no need to worry anymore. The danger has been removed and the party can continue. Everyone thinks the Rudra officers are truly special and amazing people. But we can see that the boy from earlier is embarrassed, since he's the only one who hasn't yet reached the level of a rank B warrior. He's told not to worry. After all, he still did a good job in the end. The protagonist sighs, realizing that this commotion ended up drawing a lot of attention after all. This group of people put in a lot of effort to create chaos, but there's still more work to be done. However, something suddenly catches his attention, and as he starts counting the members of his team, something stands out. Someone is missing, precisely the one the protagonists have been keeping an eye on. We then see the outside of the mansion, where a man asks if everything is in order. He's told that chaos had broken out, but now everything is secure, and there are 7 teams patrolling the exterior. In total, there are 3 people at level B and 26 guards hired by various individuals, making the place safer than the royal palace. Then a card is swiped on one of the walls of the location. One of them asks why the lights aren't working at that moment. The man supposes that maybe the mansion bought low-quality equipment in the end. But upon looking down, he notices a pool of blood seeping from under a door. This makes him anxious and scared for a long moment. He looks to the side, searching for his partner, who had suddenly vanished without a sound. Then a strike lands on his clavicle, knocking him unconscious. His body is tossed aside along with the others who had already been neutralized. The girl continues to hide her face as she walks through the place. A security camera is seen monitoring the hallway ahead of her at that moment. She extends her hand holding something. It's a signal jammer and its button is pressed at that moment. Taking advantage of it, the girl runs at full speed while there's no security present. Meanwhile, in another location, a man says there's an error occurring in elevator number 7 and they should go check it out. We then see the interior of the location, where the girl is already entering. A mercenary steps in, saying that teams 2 and 4 should follow him to the elevator. The girl continues descending by rappel like she's in a real stealth mission involving espionage and theft. She soon arrives at the elevator door she was targeting. With her own brute strength, she opens the doors without any difficulty. She thinks she's finally reached the place she was searching for. She then puts on an artificial glove. It's used to mimic the palm authentication of someone authorized to enter. Slowly, the heavy door opens before her. However, a blonde man is already waiting, saying there's a rat trying to sneak into the treasure room. The girl realizes it might be a trap after all, and that shocks her. But it shouldn't be possible. There's only one man there. So she assumes Du Wai Bang is indeed a sneaky and very suspicious person. The man quickly charges at her, twin daggers in his fists. The girl draws her katana in one fluid motion. She dashes in, swinging horizontally at the blonde. But he blocks it effortlessly with the blade on his hand. He says it's too light and asks if she's joking, then throws a kick at her like a drunk father. The girl easily perceives it, surprisingly so for someone her size. With extreme agility and grace, she launches herself upward, dodging it. She then pushes off the ceiling and leaps at him again, wearing a cold expression. This time, the man blocks her attack with both blades. It had more weight. He redirects the sword to the side as he moves in with his other fist. The girl manages to block it with difficulty, redirecting it using her sword's guard. However, the man attacks again with his other hand, ordering her to die on the spot. But the girl is only thrown back by the force of the impact. She then reveals her appearance, assuming that this guy must be extremely strong. The man is pleased that she has 2 ponytails, as it will make it easier to hold her head when he kills her. Soon several men arrive after realizing there's an intruder there. Shots are quickly fired in her direction, but the girl dodges them effortlessly. The man with the headband orders them not to shoot so randomly. After all, they must capture the intruder without killing her. She eliminates one of her enemies with her weapon without any difficulty. And with a simple wave of her hand, another one is taken down with a deep slash across his body. Suddenly, her attention shifts behind her, as she had noticed something approaching at high speed. The blonde man charges with his weapon, asking if she really believes she can turn her back on an enemy. But something happens suddenly. A fist grabs the arm of the man who was about to kill the girl. It's our protagonist who asks if he's aware that sneak attacks are the kind of thing only losers do. The man begins to tremble as he can feel the immense strength of the boy gripping his wrist. The girl recognizes our protagonist and asks how he managed to arrive so quickly. He replies that he was looking for the bathroom, but couldn't find it in the end. And the young woman says that makes no sense. There's no way he could have arrived that fast, clearly not getting the joke. The man grows even angrier, asking if he dares to joke around in front of an opponent like him. He declares that the boy's arrogance will be paid for with his life. However, our protagonist slaps him, saying that a humble rank C isn't worthy of his attention. The girl is shocked as the opponent who had been giving her so much trouble was eliminated effortlessly by Xiaoxiu. Still holding her katana, she asks if he is an enemy or a friend, to which it's answered that he is one of her bodyguards. The young woman is startled by that. What he's saying doesn't make any sense. It's then revealed that the fat businessman wasn't the real contractor. It was her all along. She then asks how he found that out. He replies that hiring multiple high-level warriors isn't something easily done by someone looking to use them as cannon fodder. And there's no reason for a perverted rich guy to do that unless he's covering for someone. The real purpose was to infiltrate the mansion and steal everything inside. All of that became clearer amidst the chaos in the mansion, especially considering how strategically everyone was positioned. And even though she was supposedly the boss, she didn't need any bodyguards. Yet they were all around her, which meant she had to be the mastermind behind everything. The girl doubts that he has the ability to deduce all of that, but says that the place is now locked and the officer's order will arrive in less than 2 minutes. The boy is surprised by that line. She broke through security on her way here. He thinks that at the very least they might still be able to grab the treasure, if only it hadn't been removed before he arrived. The girl wonders where it ended up being taken to, and he replies that she can't see through these iron walls, so there's no way to know. She then asks what he's even talking about. It all sounds too strange. He says the plan was extremely elaborate, so she must have prepared an escape route. To which she replies he doesn't need to worry. Only one person will be able to escape in the end. He then says that's enough. It's clearly an escape plan. She tries to claim that he's just an idiot who passed the test by pure luck, but then says that if he helps her, she'll show him where the treasure room is. She quickly begins to think and wonders how he found her, which might mean only one thing. Suddenly thrilled, she asks if he really knows where all the store items are. The blonde man then asks if someone really managed to break into the underground area. He's told yes. The elevators to the basement are out of order, and 2 units have lost contact. Now, they're using the breach and the passageway between them to descend all the way down. However, all of a sudden, an explosion happens instantly at that moment. It leaves the blonde man completely shocked and silent for a long time. Then the blue-haired girl tells Janning to stay in the party hall while the others are to follow her. The team members understand what's being said, and the weakest one stays behind. Quickly, the young master of the Yen family says that security seems to be entering into cooperation, to which it's said that this is necessary. After all, the officers will eliminate any hidden danger that might be present. The fat man quickly says he hopes at least someone of rank C can protect them and keep them safe. This leaves the long-haired guy completely silent at that moment. Then an old man steps in saying he's leaving because he doesn't want to die pointlessly in a place like this. To which it's responded that he can't be allowed to leave, not until the danger has been cleared and no one can safely exit. Another rich man quickly asks if he's joking, saying a danger like this can't be the result of such negligence. Meanwhile, we return to the vault room where our protagonist says she doesn't need to explain how she knows about that and asks if she accepts an intel trade. She says yes, but he needs to understand that the evacuation plan would allow only her to escape. Our boy has no problem with that and says he'll lead her directly to the treasure room. He then tells her to follow him immediately, as this path is closer. She stares at him and asks if there's some kind of mechanism in the wall ahead. Our protagonist reveals that there is, then delivers an extremely powerful punch that breaks through the steel structure. He clears away the debris without any noticeable effort, metal plates heavier than anything else. She then asks if that was just for decoration, given how easily he destroyed it, to which he replies no. However, these stairs will take them 10 meters underground, where the treasure room is located. While walking, the girl asks if his fists are made of iron, since he seems like some kind of superhuman created through biological engineering. But as they arrive at the location, our protagonist is startled to see several soldiers positioned in front of him. He immediately throws the girl toward the corner, saying it's clearly an ambush set for both of them. They stay still as bullets fly past them with full force. The men are determined to kill them immediately, no matter what happens. And so both of them tell the other to cover them during the fight that's about to happen. The girl asks how she's supposed to do that since the protagonist doesn't even have a weapon, to which he says he's prepared for any kind of situation. He explains that this is his type of weapon and that he has many of them, which annoys the girl. After all, they're marbles, and she asks if he plays with children, which earns her some swearing from him, saying that's not the point. The gunfire stops. It's time to reload after so many bullets were fired at the protagonist. This is the perfect moment they were waiting for, and the boy says it's time to go. The girl, with terrifying agility, starts running along the walls, charging toward the armored soldiers. Her face is set for a precise strike, ready to take off their heads with no effort. But something suddenly causes her pupils to dilate in visible confusion. All the soldiers were taken out by long-range shots to the head, killed instantly. Looking back, she realizes the one responsible was our protagonist, now showing a completely serious expression. Then, with a smile, he says he did quite well, and the girl thanks him for helping her. They finally reach the actual treasure vault where everything is stored. She says it won't be easy to open. It's 30 centimeters of pure steel, making her punches useless. But that's not really a problem. After all, the concrete surrounding the entire wall is quite easy to bring down. That surprises the girl, whether she likes it or not. That's something only superhumans can break through. With his leg, the protagonist brings the wall down without any difficulty, opening a path forward. They finally manage to reach the secret area where all the items set for auction are being stored. We can see several crates and capsules extremely well prepared and filled with valuable items. Sarcophagi of pharaohs and even aliens are being stored there as a kind of treasure for anyone rich enough to buy them. Looking around, our protagonist can only say that whoever collected all this must be completely insane for keeping such disgusting and repulsive things. The blue-haired girl promptly says they have 50 seconds left and must get out of there all at once as quickly as possible. It's stated that they have a deal, and so the treasure in the form of books all belongs to her. The boy is happy with that since he prefers listening to audiobooks over reading things like that anyway. But something suddenly catches his attention, something beside him. He finally finds the obsidian essence, which is exactly what could bring his companion back to life. After a few moments, he asks how they escaped, and it said they need to go even further down. Our boy says there's a storage area below that hasn't been used in a long time, from what he could tell. It's explained that there's a passage to the lower depths about 60 meters beyond that location. Apparently, the mansion's owner is some kind of madman who has a private biological facility on the lower floors. And there's a large drainage pipe that leads directly to the ocean. That's the exit route and escape plan. The boy asks how she knows so much about this place, considering she's just a young girl who should be in school, to which she replies that he shouldn't mention it. We then return to the blonde man who was taken down by Xiao, and it's said that his neck was broken, yet he's still alive. A member of the team realizes that the captain was defeated with a single punch and asks if the man who did this is stronger than their comrade Bind. The blind man begins hissing with rage and tension in that moment. One of the men asks what he's trying to say, and it's stated that the evacuation failed and this opponent's fists are strong enough to explode brains. The girl then raises her hand and tells them to stop moving forward. She asks the person hiding ahead to come out to them, because she can easily sense someone trying to play hide and seek at that moment. We then see the girl finally step forward, holding her sword. She stares coldly and attentively at the enemy in front of her. The man thinks there's no way it could be the girl. After all, she's just a small, high school-looking girl. But then the woman suspects that can't be true, assuming she must have an accomplice after all. Suddenly, several small metal balls fly toward them like incredibly precise bullets. One hits a man in the head, and the giant steps in to protect his leader. Our protagonist then appears in front of them with a fully charged punch. He knocks the giant out effortlessly with his overwhelming strength. The blue-haired woman watches in complete shock and disbelief. Next, we see the swordswoman charge forward with her katana, aiming to kill the woman instantly. But the woman is already prepared and shows no fear. She blocks the attack with her whip and says the girl is outside her expectations. Seizing the opening, our boy charges forward with his fist aimed directly at the girl in front of him. However, his hand is suddenly stopped by another, even larger one. He's startled. He was sure he had taken that enemy down. It's the giant, who turns out to be injured but still manages to hold on after the protagonist's incredibly strong punch. The woman quickly prepares to act while being protected by the man. Xiaoxiu thinks this guy is really tough, but all he needs is to hit him again with another one of his ultra-powerful punches. But he's interrupted by another man who tells him that he has quite a heavy hand. He then asks not to be ignored, surprising the protagonist and leaving him stunned. His expression instantly shifts to one of tension, and the girl realizes that they've just gotten themselves into serious trouble. Both of them then take a massive punch to the chin that sends them flying backward. This mountain of muscle begins hissing and communicating in a way that none of them can understand. The woman quickly translates, saying that no one can hurt her queen in front of her, and calls him formidable. Both of them are now on their knees after the powerful attack they just suffered. In the end, the others have the numerical advantage and 3 rank B fighters are more than he can handle. The woman tells him to stop running. After all, he has no chance of winning this fight. The boy quickly signals to his companion, who understands immediately. She then throws a grenade and says they should end it altogether, once and for all. The woman and man are suddenly terrified at the explosion that might occur. The giant throws himself in front to protect his companions from whatever is about to happen. However, our protagonist grabs his companion and begins to run as fast as possible to a nearby place. The woman quickly realizes that it's a fake. It won't explode. In the end, they're fools for going back into the Chamber of Secrets, which is essentially a dead end. There's nothing they can do inside, as they'll be confined in a completely enclosed space where the others can activate traps. Immediately, the man who looks like he came straight out of Resident Evil starts pounding on the door, trying to open it. The woman says to release the poisonous gas now, as they'll be able to shoot directly at the fish in the barrel. The girl notices the strong smell entering and says it smells like oxidized ethylene. She then asks what the protagonist's plan is, and he says that first of all, he needs to seal everything off as quickly as possible. 3 minutes earlier, when he grabbed the obsidian, it ended up being absorbed directly into his body, without giving him any chance to react. But soon after, a voice was heard asking if it was the cube, his friend. Through tears, he heard a familiar voice saying the system was currently undergoing an extreme upgrade. Then the girl calls to him, saying they need to get out of there immediately, as they're running out of time. He asks what treasure she came looking for with such urgency, and she replies not to mention it. it's a secret. She then asks why he was taking so long, and he replies that he spent a little time analyzing the jewels and picking the best one. The girl quickly smiles and says that being a thief is a profession he seems to be enjoying after all. The boy laughs as he ended up teleporting everything into his own space, which in the end means money won't be a problem for him for the rest of his life. We soon see that they're running out of oxygen, and the girl says she can't hold on much longer, to which he tells her to just hold her breath a little more. The man notes that it's already been 3 minutes and the average record for holding one's breath is no more than 22. Completely red in the face, the girl asks if he's trying to send her to hell because she can't take it anymore. He replies that it's almost ready. The cube's upgrade percentage has already reached 97%, which is enough for him to start acting. He says he studied a lot back in school. He tells her to close her eyes because it's about to get dark for a moment, and the first condition is that the space must be 100% sealed. The cube's space was then expanded once again, and now it can carry more people inside. The second condition is that if there is at least 3% air mixed with oxidized ethylene, it becomes extremely flammable. And the third condition is that only a small spark needs to be released in such a gas-filled space. A massive explosion suddenly erupts at that very moment. We see that the woman managed to defend herself using her whip and a protective device she carries. And right beside her, the small cube that our protagonist keeps is completely intact. Both of them emerge from the explosion completely unharmed, while the boy says that chemistry books were never going to lie to him in the end. The system is now upgraded and the cube's internal space has increased to 5x5. His teleportation ability has also been improved and can now be used twice per minute with a much greater range. In addition, his micro-radiation vision now has a radius of over 30 meters, which is impressive. And a new function has been unlocked called Indomitable God, which now allows him to use gems to enhance his companions. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.